We are on the internet, apparently.
We're on the internet.
That way, that's the wrong show. That's not my show.
Yeah. Hey, are we on the internet?
Are we on the internet?
Are we on the internet?
Yes.
Sorry,
Thank you,
Chief.
Denise.
It's just gonna make him angry.
Oh, our brains are really on fire today. We're
I'm not thinking of words properly.
I'm
That's
not
what
there
I
yet
discovered
either.
on
Oh, wait.
Facebook Live with you.
The internet gets to see this. Hold on. Welcome to the Wednesday Club. I'm Taliesin Jaffe.
Is
oh
that
my
your
god,
first-
your shirt.
Did you not notice?
No.
Oh yeah.
It's a good shirt.
Hi, you made me Dallen.
I'm Matt Key.
Mackie, and let's take a moment to talk about your jacket, sir.
It's a stellar jacket.
It's very lordly.
I do feel like
It's very lordly.
I do feel like there's something where like I feel like I'm trying too hard with this jacket. Like I'm like, I swear I'm cool. I swear I'm really cool, guys. Look at how cool I am.
It needs a band shirt. Like you really need a band shirt of some kind.
Yeah,
to wear
right?
with it. Like I don't know what band.
Perfect as it is. But
Yeah.
yes, that's also a good idea.
I think a band shirt would really like. I don't even know what band, but like some band.
Like the Ramones.
Like do you own a Church's shirt like the rest
Come
of
on,
us?
this is
I
perfect.
should.
That is a great shirt.
Right?
Yeah, they do go well.
Yeah. Right. Quick backstory on this jacket. My friend Sam is a seamstress, and she used to work for We Love Fine. She doesn't work there anymore. I don't know who she's working for now, but I went to a barbecue over the weekend. She's like, "Hey, try this jacket on, because I'm trying to get the sizes right for the patterns." And I was like, "Yeah, all right, sure, I'll do that." And she had made this over the weekend. I tried it on. It's an extra large, and it fit me really well. And she's like, "You know what? Now that I know that it works, just keep it." I was like, no. I appreciate that. Thank you. You've got a boyfriend. Give it to him. She's like, an extra large is going to dwarf him. Like, take it. It's yours. I was like, really? A
You're one of
jacket
7
that
people in the
fits
world
me?
that jacket would fit.
Yeah.
It would be
There are-
criminal for you not to
There
take
are
it.
7 people who could fit under that jacket also.
Yeah.
Just,
Well, I'm
Our-
a giant.
yeah, it's,
Yeah, but I saw Travis Willingham over the weekend.
oh yeah, I saw
He's
this.
doing-
You were there.
jacket?
He saw and he's like, "Whoa, dude, nice jacket." And I was like, "Thank you, Travis." And he's like, "Man, where did you get a jacket that?" Because we're both roughly the same size. He's just 7 times more yoked than I could ever be. So I let him try on the jacket, and it fit him better than it fit me.
It
And I
was
was like,
pretty good.
"Give me the jacket, man. Give me the.
You earned that jacket.
Give me my jacket back."
It looks perfect on you.
And
Thank you.
And you get to lord it over everybody.
And
I do.
ignore
Oh,
Ignore that trying too hard feeling.
thank you. But
That's how we know
the
we're trying
interior
things.
of it is also very cool. Let me just show this off. It's
Oh yeah, you got to see this, guys.
Star-Lord's. It's the shirt.
It's the shirt from the
It's
movie.
the shirt from the movie. So when it's just hanging up on a hanger, it
I kept thinking it said like "Baby Yeah" the entire
Right?
time I was like watching
right.
the film.
It's
I'm
cool.
like, why
So,
does
like,
it said "Baby Yeah"?
It's been hanging up on a hanger in our house, and every time
So
I walk
solid.
by it, I'm like, "That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool."
You should, yeah. you
Well,
should-
dang.
So
That jacket's great.
anyway, thanks for joining us today on the Wednesday Club. That's been our show. We'll see you later.
No one else has any comic book related news, do they? Any exciting things connected to comics?
Oh. Yeah, I suppose I just
I
announced
just
it.
learned about on Facebook Live.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't.
We're all still excited because it's new for us. I found
It's
it yesterday.
new. It's very exciting. Yeah, I finally got announced. I've been sitting on this for over a year. Oh my God, that I am the voice of the Flash of Barry Allen in the new Injustice video game, and it was awesome. And the game's really fun.
I've never played the game. Is it a good game?
It is.
It's a fighting game, right?
It's a Mortal Kombat style fighting game.
Which is probably why I've never played it, because I'm terrible at those
It apparently
games.
has a rad story mode. Injustice 2
It has.
just came out
It has
on
an
Monday
amazing
night,
story
Tuesday night?
mode. It came out Tuesday night, I believe. Monday night or Tuesday night. I'm not quite sure.
The
I
Monday
haven't
night
had-
being coming Tuesday
Right.
portion of the week.
It's so much fun.
Do you remember any of the lines that would be like your favorites?
I don't remember any. It was a year ago.
Sure, that's why
I don't
asking.
remember, but I remember laughing a lot, and I remember getting into like a couple trivia offs with the writer just because we were like fingers on buttons. Who can answer this question faster? It was making the directors and engineers and animators laugh their ass off. Oh, so they were like, "Oh my God, nerds!"
Awesome.
But it is a really good game. It's beautiful. It's there's a dress up option that's really fun. Where like I say,
Tell us about this dress-up option.
it is.
Colin.
It's
We just both settled in.
beyond anything but beyond the fighting mechanics. And Mortal Kombat games have their own unique fighting mechanics that are a little tricky to get used to. I'm getting used to it again. It's been a long time for me.
Because you want to play as yourself.
I want to play as a bunch of people. because it's
I'm
it's a
loving
big
this side by side.
anybody who's a
Oh,
big
that is so Taliesin.
yeah, my eyes glowing. I
Yeah.
look like I'm about to punch.
Part of the Speed
my
Force. That's our
Take your
Taliesin.
jacket.
I'll let you. Do
That's
you want to
your
wear it?
face,
I'll let you
though,
wear it.
right?
swing
Like
in that.
that's your. That looks like your
They
face.
actually there was a camera attached to a thing and they captured
Was it
the
really?
face. Yeah, and then they
Oh my
and then
God,
they,
that's awesome.
The animators go in with that information.
So that's actually your face.
kind of sorta, yeah.
That's your face.
You're in the DNA of Barry Allen.
In the DNA.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. I know. I'm losing my mind. It's like really weird.
So, my guess was that you were just mildly disappointed that it wasn't Wally West. Was I correct?
I couldn't feel it at the time. It's a lot like being handed cotton candy ice cream while you're getting like a small shot in the arm. I'm like,
Sure.
what was that? No, never mind.
Yeah.
And also, modern Barry Allen has so much of the DNA of Wally
Wally
West.
West, yeah,
and,
that's very true.
Honestly, my voice, I'm more of a Barry than a Wally Allen. I probably shouldn't play Wally. Wally's a little
Let me ask you this:
prettier.
Who could we play? In the DC universe, because we all know I've got Doctor Strange on lock as soon as as soon as Liam O'Brien is like, I'm done with this voiceover game.
I don't know. I'll tell you what though, because I want to be really quick about it. Except I do actually do voice casting, so
No,
I
I
want
know.
to
You
take
can't
this.
just throw a question like that at him.
That's-
This is like
that's
asking
so,
our
like-
artist friends, like, sketch me a thing. They're like, I need 10 hours.
Give me. I will think about this, and I will come up with.
I mean, I volunteer as tribute.
with voice wise where I would put you guys in the DCU. I'll think
Because
about that.
I can do a deep voice.
Yeah,
I
but
can
it's-
do a high pitch voice. I would be a very good voiceover actor. Is what I'm trying to say.
no, well, we've thought about it.
I've got to jog you down. I would be a very good voiceover.
I would be a
I
very
would
good
be the best
voiceover
voiceover.
actor.
No, but I'll play that game later. That'll be fun with both of you. That'll be good. I used to with some director friends. We used to cast all of our VO friends in Marvel and DC universe. We actually used
Really?
to have a private wiki.
Oh, that's adorable.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's bad.
You
Is
just
it
went to
hidden
like.
or password protected?
Oh, it's password. It was
that's-
Chris Bevins and I he's a director. Chris Bevins is a director at Funimation. If you're watching this right now, you work for Funimation. You should be busy right now and not watching this on the internet. You have shows to work on, sir. We used to call each other up at night and be like, okay. So I've got a couple options for Zemo. I want to see what you think about this. And there were rules like you could only double up in Marvel. You could only double up the classic and X universe is the only doubling up you could do.
Yeah.
And
So like one actor could play an X-Man, but they could also play
they could also play
another classic Marvel
a
character.
classic Marvel character and an X universe character.
Sure.
There were rules, and
get that.
it got weird. That was probably me. I'm gonna make sure that.
Let's all check our phones.
No, it wasn't me.
Nope, we're
No,
good.
it's not me.
Oh wow, that was the internet.
That's probably this then.
There we go,
Maybe
right
I
there.
don't know. Never mind.
Okay, you
Not
look
us.
amazing.
Thank you.
Wait, if you move slowly right now, you'll be sort of like.
Oh,
Yes.
No,
I'm. It
Run,
was.
Barry, run.
Wow.
It was really really fun. The story is really great. It's filled with deep lore.
So the Injustice
Folks who want to
story-
see more, by the way, can watch the VOD of Game Engine from yesterday.
Yeah, and there's a comic book that you can read. There's an Injustice comic book.
Yeah,
That's really,
is it-
really good.
is I've heard
New
it's
issue
good.
came out today.
I've heard it's really good. Is it really good?
It's one of those things that like is designed, and I'm going to say it is a book designed for me not to like.
Yeah.
Which is that it's DC doing grimdark, which is like my least favorite thing, except that it does it really well, and I'm like, this is what DC grimdark should be. It's still fun and fanciful and filled with crazy ideas, and not just relying
But
on the
it's like-
fact
Those
that it's
books
heavy.
are so good. They've stayed popular for the 5 years in between
Yeah.
games. Like
Yeah.
as a retailer, video game tie-ins don't last that long.
Yeah.
And Injustice just kept going. To the point that they finished out year 5. Now they've started a prequel series, which is running alongside the official Injustice 2
God.
comics right now.
It's great.
And folks who don't have an LCS, this is the book for you because they do it in short pieces online first, and then they do the paper ones. So you guys actually have a slight advantage if you're reading digitally.
And part of the fun of the game is that you can change everyone's costume down. You gain new costume pieces, so the costume changes and changes your stats and powers and
that's so
and you can
fun.
also change the colors of the costume. Hal can be almost any kind of Green Lantern. He can be White Lantern, Blue Lantern. You can do all the Lantern colors.
Does he have those same powers as the Blue
No,
Lantern?
it's always the Green Lantern powers, but
But he just appears as a Blue Lantern.
But you can
yeah.
get options for all the different Lantern outfits, and you can also do Jon Stewart as a selectable, not only a skin but also
This is
voice.
another Green Lantern.
Yeah, another Green Lantern, and the same thing with there's three different There's 3 different Flashes currently available. There's Reverse Flash, and
Eobarthon?
Thawne,
Yeah.
with Liam voicing him, or Jay Garrick with Travis voicing him, with Golden Age class.
Okay, that's
it's so
amazing.
Much. It's so much. It's great.
Oh Oh man, that makes me want to do actually get into voiceover now, just so I can be like,
Well,
I'm in DC
start easy, play the
Injustice.
game. Play the game, start easy.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the dress up alone.
I have a question.
Yeah.
While we're talking about the many looks that you can put on a character while still knowing who they are, what's today's topic?
That's actually a really good segue.
Thank you.
Wow, I was wondering. I was actually sitting here going, how are we going to segue out of this in a way that makes sense? Today's topic when we're calling it Welcome, is Wednesday in Riverdale. Wednesday in Riverdale.
Thank you, Caitlin, for
we are
this
talking
Sabrina.
about the Archie comic verse. We are talking about Archie comics. Archie, Betty, Veronica, Jughead, everybody who Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Josie and the Pussycats, and all of these characters that exist in this unbelievably long-running comic book series that's been running since, oh my god, I've got the date here at the top of the
Been
page.
running since the 40s.
1941 was the beginning of Pep Comics. It's been running
Comics.
forever. And who these characters are, why they're popular, why they're still around, and I'm going to start out today by saying I love Archie. I love Archie. I love the characters. I love Josie and the Pussycats. I love Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I love this shit. I'm probably going to end up with a Riverdale Letterman jacket at some point. It's that bad because that stuff's great.
I grew up on Archie. I love that. For the purposes of the show, I'd been meaning to watch Riverdale this entire time. I threw that first episode on just so I'd be a little bit prepared for today. And it is amazing. And this won't speak to everyone, but my visceral reaction when you see a sign that says "Welcome to Riverdale, the town with pep." When the first thing that happens is the narrator says something about Dilton Doily, my ears just perk all the way up. There's these totally arbitrary and ridiculous characters who've been with us in semi-changing forms since the 40s. They're in my DNA because it was.
Well, I will say I didn't grow up with them. I didn't grow up with Archie. I mean, I think everyone sort of just by cultural osmosis, which is one of my favorite terms, understands kind of the notion of who and what Archie is, and the most.
And then one of the most fascinating cases of that, because it speaks to a lot of other sort of very dry stuff about comic book distribution and how it changed over the years. That these characters should happen to have survived in that way. But
as just this very notion that there's a redheaded guy named Archie who seems a little out of date, and that there's these two girls named Betty and Veronica who seem to be really, really angry at each other over him a lot. And that's there is that cultural osmosis that's as far as it goes, and no one really. You don't necessarily know where it came from or how it got there, but it's this book that you remember, at least in my generation as a kid, as being one of the last books you saw at a magazine stand. Back when there were grocery stores and magazine stands, which are all but extinct now. I was a West Coast kid. We had Gidget.
The TV show?
No, well, I think there's something to be said for it. I think maybe every generation has this, maybe not. And please correct me if I'm going weird here. I'm going to get weird. The notion.
What?
I don't buy it.
It's just, eat an Infinity Stone, pal.
You know what? In this jacket, I could handle it.
You could kind of take it. You could take it and pass it in that.
Give me the Power Stone. My dad's a planet.
He is now.
Oh man, it's great. But there is such a thing as there are teenage archetypes that you read as you're a kid. When you're in that transition point as a child, where they call it tween now, but that was a new word. That word didn't exist when I was growing up. Where you're starting to become a teenager and you're kind of starting to figure out what that means, and that process between child and adult, which is so interesting and fascinating, and we cover so much of it in fiction because. It's a opportunity. There we go. It's an opportunity to tell stories, adult stories from characters who the audience is okay that these characters don't know better. You can, and not to make them dumb necessarily, but you can make it somebody can have a dumb decision. They can do something foolish and brave that is obviously going to end poorly. And the excuse is, well, they're 15. Of course they are. And it's just that you had a 30-year-old character doing that, or even a 25-year-old character doing that, they would be an idiot. Yeah. But as a teenager, it's endearing because it's your first venture out. Star-Lord, perfect example. As a teenager,
he pulls it off, but
Yeah,
That's the tension there.
It is permission to make dumb decisions. Being a
Yeah.
teenager is on a certain level permission to make dumb decisions and to take things too seriously, things that shouldn't be taken seriously, and that's such good fodder for storytelling. And I think every generation has a few of these. I mean, there was Buffy the Vampire Slayer for a lot of people.
Into every generation, a teenage
Into every
archetype is born.
generation, there is an archetype, and for a lot of kids, it was Archie. And on the West Coast, we had Gidget.
Okay, wait, no, because when you say Gidget, I'm imagining a show or movie I've never seen, possibly starring Sally Field.
Okay, Gidget.
Yeah,
Gidget.
That's
is
what I'm also thinking.
All right, Gidget. She was very popular. I want to say in the '60s. It was a novel from the 1950s.
Okay.
And Gidget was a teenage girl who was she was kind of the female Archie. Mm-hmm. And she was kind of short, and she was kind of nerdy, and she decided she moved to the West Coast, and she was going to become a surfer. And she at school decides she's going to learn to surf and show all those boys and just get in there and becomes Gidget in her nickname from the surfing and these were stories that I'm trying to remember the name of the writer, the creator of Gidget, but his daughter was telling him all these stories of the kids she was going to high school with in Los Angeles and the surf culture at the time, and he was just fascinated with it and created this character Gidget, who was go ahead, please. Give me
Frederick Kohner.
Thank you.
Based on his teenage daughter Kathy in his 1957 novel Gidget, the Little Girl with Big Ideas.
Oh my God, this is so my jam.
It is so your jam. Gidget Gidget is what I grew up on.
She's been portrayed by Sandra Dee and
there
Sally
she is.
Field.
And I forgot there was a comic book.
There was a
we
comic of everything in the
Yeah.
50s and 60s, by the way. If you're wondering, yes, there was a comic of it. Please read the new Bob Hope Adventures. Available at House of Secrets.
The new Bob Hope Adventures.
I don't know if that was the actual title, but take my word for it.
I remember
That comic
Meatloaf
exists.
partnering up with Spider-Man and Captain America to save Twinkies from things. That's all
Sandra
I
Dee
remember.
in 1959.
Okay,
There
yeah.
was a film. So
Oh
it was
yeah,
a- it was
there
a
we
big-
are.
Yeah.
And Gidget was kind of the teen hero that I grew up on because that was the thing
Sure.
that my family fed me, and I was a weird kid. But a lot of our West Coast kids, we really liked her because she was really part of
Super.
that beach culture, which is kind of on the outs these days, but gave way to a lot of our current Burning Man culture and otherwise was these beach kids, and so I kind of missed out on Archie. Whereas even though Archie is kind of in theory supposed to be Central California, I think they're near a beach. I know that they can reach a beach.
They're near everything.
They're near everything.
Riverdale is like Springfield.
Yeah, it's in the middle of everything. But it's very Midwestern.
That is true. I've always thought of that as taking place in Illinois or something like that. But they go to the beach a lot.
They go to the beach a lot.
Clearly, this has never occurred to me. Where do they live?
It's a tiny planet with the little prince on the other side, missing each other. But the Archie kids are just great archetype teenagers, and it was a great build, and it's one that they literally there's no great story behind it. It was a comic book publisher that was doing a lot of superhero books. And literally one day they were like, we should try see what happens if we make a book about just relatable kids.
Well, and I think that was the smartest move they probably could have made because the big comic book hero that they had at the time was The Shield.
The Shield.
And he came out a year after Captain America.
It was a year after, a year before.
After.
Was
What's
it a
that?
year?
There seems to be some online disagreement on this point.
I think it was after, if I remember correctly. I will look it up.
It could have gone either way though, because there was probably a dozen patriotic heroes all at the same time, and only the same way there was a dozen Batmans,
Right.
and only one. No one really remembers the Black Bat, except that now it's Cassandra Cain, and Captain Marvel is now Shazam, and all these things.
And an interesting thing that I was always fascinated by is that, in some ways, Archie was retro from the beginning because the year was 1940, but he looks very much so the concept of the teenager is relatively new. And one of the first big waves of what teens and young people were was this 20s pop culture boom of teenagers. And they the idea of wearing college sweaters and all this a lot of this imagery that we get for what typical teens and young people are comes out of that. And Archie sort of looks from his early days like a throwback to the 20s in 1940. So you can think
God, look at that cover.
so good.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, he's a bit of a throwback.
That is an amazing cover. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Archie.
It's
That bow tie, though, right?
That bow tie. Well, and he was also I know he had a little bit of Mickey Rooney, who was popular at the time as an actor, a young actor.
I have an answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Shield debuted in January 1940. Pet Comics. Captain America debuted
41?
in March 41.
Yep. I was like, oh wait,
Yeah.
Cap
So
41?
the Shield came first, but then Joe Simon
didn't
and
do
Jack
it.
Kirby came and were like, hey, well, Captain America, he's punching Hitler. Check that
That's
out.
why we don't have Citizen V or any of those all those great, ridiculous patriotic characters.
So the Shield came first, but then they weren't standing. Like the Shield wasn't doing the same numbers as Superman, Captain America, Batman. So I think it was a smart publishing move to be like,
yeah,
what if
they
we
were
went
like
in the
teens?
opposite direction and did teen romance and drama?
Well, and they were in the 40s. The Pep comic eventually was Archie took over the cover, but they were still publishing Shield in the back. I actually think they were up until recently. They were still publishing Shield on and off.
They relaunch it every couple years.
Every few
actually.
years
I think
they give
there
it a
is
roll.
one right now.
There probably is one.
They've
feel bad.
spun off a lot of the sort of those titles into the Dark Circle.
Yeah.
Like as a publishing imprint, and that'll get into that's
That we'll get into.
future history of the company.
Do you want me to ask any questions?
Yeah, bring some up please bring some up because this is fascinating.
So, Miss Sunflower 94 says, obvious question: where would someone start in Riverdale?
Well, I'm going.
If you're talking about the TV show, start with the pilot.
I actually haven't seen
But
the TV show yet.
I don't think that's what she meant.
I haven't seen the TV show yet because I've had no time.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm like 2 episodes behind Brittany and I. Brittany,
Nice. Okay,
Brittany
I've
loves
seen
the show.
the pilot.
All of my friends say that it's like sugary and dumb and wonderful. Like
Yes.
that it's just.
It is-
Or were you the one who was saying it's
I had someone come into the shop being like, "This is the most teenage nonsense, blah 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 something. I love it." And it was like that was it, and I was like, "Okay. that's your all right." I feel I have a strong sense of.
David Lynch's Twin Peaks. Mix it with a lot of cotton candy.
You've already like said I love Twin Peaks and Cotton
And
Candy.
then give it to a teenager and say, make something of this. And that's what Riverdale is.
They're playing. We can see the trailer for Riverdale playing in the background here.
Oh wow! Look at that.
The big key difference you'll notice is that there's murder in this story.
There's murder.
Not a typical feature of Archie comics. In
Although
the
we'll get into that.
regular versions.
Because Archie, part of the thing that makes Archie work really well, and I'm going to say this, is that the stories are very flexible.
Apparently.
The characters are that's very flexible. The characters are flexible. The situation is so simple. It's a very soft. It's not even a love triangle. I call it a crush triangle.
So
That's a very good way to put
Archie
it.
also dates back to like some really interesting notions of like teen romance.
Yes.
Which is that like for my limited understanding of early 20th century history, there
want a
were
live then?
times where like yes, I'm a vampire pretending not to know things. Thank you.
You get your pail is working
Now
really well now
everyone-
too. It's,
Yeah.
I'm a vampire pretending not to know things. Yes, Matt Key, you've cracked the case.
it's my
Dumb idiot.
me.
Not you.
Your new Twitter feed is not a vampire.
Executive goth and not a vampire.
Yeah, not a vampire.
Not a vampire. It's working though. You all
Clamato
believe
juice.
me, right? So the central. Sorry, this is kind of a tangent, but like,
No, bring it.
If you are unfamiliar with the Archie universe, the main character is Archie Andrews. He's redheaded. He's good-natured. He's clumsy. He is pretty much always after like spare money. He drives around an old beat-up car. He's got some good friends, and he's got a couple of girls that he just thinks are fantastic.
He's a solid B. Like not quite a B
the
plus,
key
not
to
quite a
Archie
B
Andrews
minus,
is,
but
like,
he's always a B.
You can't help loving that guy.
No, he's
Like
great.
that's his thing. Is that like he's not like hello, Archie Andrews. Like
He's
that
not
would
the
be
he's not the
off-putting.
best at anything,
So,
but he's not the worst at anything.
But so in a very unlikely turn of events, both of these girls that he thinks are super keen, along with dozens of others, also think he is super keen, and that is the essence of the like triangular situation. One of them is rich and fancy. One of them is like thrifty and homespun and girl next story. They are also best friends basically. They both think Archie's great. And back in the 40s, like going steady at a young age was kind of frowned on. It was like a weird behavior. Like you were sort of expected to go on dates with different people. That was supposed to be like training for the real world. Like
sowing oats. It was very sowy oatsy.
I mean, there was a heavy dose of like, if you were female, especially, there were very strict expectations about what should or shouldn't happen on those dates. But the idea that you should have like that it wasn't just like jerk faces who would date a bunch of different people in high school, like that's sort of in the DNA of Archie in this way that like has made it age very strangely. Where now we're kind of like, these girls are in love with you, pick one, settle down, you're a jerk. But like this is a thing that has come with us out of the original DNA of Archie comics. Someone on the internet went, I like how both of them could be read as looking at Veronica in this image.
Meanwhile on Riverdale,
which of course has become one of the dominant like sub interpretations of it's the art. Do you think he should be with Betty? Do you think he should be with Veronica? Do you think Betty and Veronica should just run away together?
There's a fascinating story where we're going to get into sexuality, because there's a lot of conversation and a lot of interesting conversation about sexuality that revolves around these books, which we are going to be getting into, because it is.
I just went. That was the base DNA there.
So let me throw this out. Frankenstein 1912 says, "Could you explain who the main characters are if anyone doesn't know?" So we've got Archie. Which you explained.
Archie Andrews.
We got Betty and Veronica. Betty is the homespun girl next door. Like, and the stereotypes are to the extreme, like in a lot of ways, and that's what makes them so kind of fun to play with.
Very girl next door, and then Veronica is very much very moneyed.
And a bit hyper money, like Richie rich money.
And the range comes in sort of like, sometimes you'll see Veronica written as just spoiled little rich girl. Sometimes you'll see her written in different sort of like more likable and appealing versions of spoiled or naive rich girl.
There's been enough time that these characters all actually have a lot of depth. Like they didn't have. There's been so much time that enough people have taken a look at this and started to like delve into it that no character. There isn't a character in this universe that doesn't have some depth, and no matter how much you can treat them as a caricature, they're really not. The other characters are Reggie.
Reggie is kind of the bully.
Reggie Mantle.
We should say Betty Cooper, Veronica Lodge.
Archibald Andrews.
Yeah, Archibald Andrews.
Jughead, who's
Jones.
Jughead Jones, who's he's a complicated one, and that's a long story, but he's kind of the quirky best friend.
Yep.
But like, it's more than quirky. Like, he's kind of a dick sometimes.
Well, I mean, he can go. They can all be kind of a dick sometimes. It depends. But Jughead's kind of got his own thing going on, and he's a little smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
Interestingly,
except maybe Betty.
Jughead's
not. There's Jughead.
Jughead is so like, depending on how things sort out. Jughead will occasionally is not above laughing at the misfortunes of people he dislikes, but he's almost never like the one doing the mean thing.
He's very rarely cruel. He is sometimes very self-centered because he has so much of his own. His own interior is so strange, and his needs. And
he's beautifully teenage in the way where he's just like, here are the things I care about, and the things I don't care about could just go on by me, and that's fine.
And it can be very it can be very disconcerting occasionally when there's something heavy happening to someone that you identify with, and Jughead is like, your pain bores me off. Like, very much. Yeah. Like, this is dumb. I'm not interested in it.
And it's not because he's wealthy and above it. It's just, he just doesn't care.
He doesn't
have the brain width for it.
Yeah, he's got a lot of his own interior going
Depending on the version of Jughead that you are reading.
He can be very odd.
So this is Archie's best friend who does not take a side in the Betty-Veronica wars.
No.
He's usually a little more friendly with Betty.
He and Betty have more in common.
Like, when you write Veronica in a shallow way, Jughead doesn't have anything she values. When you write Veronica in another way, like, she usually tends to see the things about him that make him interesting, and they're a little more friendly.
And even Reggie, bully is one way of putting it. He's kind of in the jock camp, and all the
Reggie
camps.
Mantle is Archie's rival, usually trying to monopolize Veronica.
I'll find a picture of him somewhere.
Yeah,
he wears a leather jacket a lot.
Yeah, Reggie thinks he's cool. Archie does not think he's cool. These are things that work against Reggie and for Archie, respectively.
And one of the things that makes Archie cool is that I don't think he sees himself as cool. Like, he's
not
just
at
like,
all.
I'm a teenager, and like, bad things happen to me from time to time, and I really like Betty and Veronica, and I don't know how to make a choice. Like,
he thinks he's slightly more competent than he is.
Yeah.
Archie, but he knows he's not that competent, and he definitely knows he's not cool.
Yeah, he's lovably doofus.
Lovably doofus, which makes him cool. And all the kids at school know he's cool. And it's great. And everyone, even Reggie being kind of a jerk, everyone's still, there he is in the back yelling. Reggie is still
So this is
not
poor
antisocial.
Betty in the background, not enjoying what is happening because this is a cover where Veronica is winning their terrible 70-year contest. But you can see the whole dynamic right there, where Reggie's like, "What's so great about Archie?" and Betty's like, "Everything."
Yeah, and Reggie is capable of hanging out with everybody and still not being like.
But some versions of Reggie are very mean. He's
mean.
usually the prankster. He's usually the one who will go too far with that stuff, like actually get people in trouble and then sort of have a change of heart and feel bad about it.
And then there's in the Mark Waid run, like he's the out and out antagonist, like in the current Mark Waid run, like he's not good news.
He's not
Archie
good.
falls in love with everyone. Reggie is after everyone's girl. That's another difference between them.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Like,
Vampire trying to hide out.
He also in the Buffy for the Buffy run, he is the Cordelia.
see, Veronica's also the Cordelia.
Veronica can be and Veronica and Jughead can both be the Cordelia. Oh, you poor people at home.
Oh, sorry.
Cordelia is shorthand for you need somebody in the group who's going to do two things, which is cause problems, because that's what fiction is, and B, tell people the truth about themselves, definitely when they don't want to hear it. And mean people in books are really good for that, of telling you. The best mean characters are the ones who tell the truth.
Yeah.
And are like, no, you're terrible, and here's why. And that's great. And Reggie does that more often, but also Veronica and Jughead can occasionally be the Cordelia. Cordelia from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who is a character who on a certain level only existed to make sure that everybody was unhappy.
But as noted, like, grew into this crazy, sophisticated, like, version of herself on the spin-off show Angel.
Where they had to make Spike into Cordelia for when she left, which was great. You always need a Cordelia.
So
interestingly, on the Riverdale TV show, they have literally pulled a Cordelia. I'm not sure if that's a good use of the word literally, but evaluate it at home. Because a thing that happens to humanize the mean girl Cordelia character is that her dad loses all his money. And she has this big sort of reckoning and has to kind of grow up as a person.
You're talking about Veronica?
I'm talking about Cordelia. So what I'm saying is the Riverdale TV show has humanized their mean girl character by putting her dad in a lot of trouble that makes her confront the world in a new way.
Yes.
Which is the actual
same
story
thing
that happens to Cordelia.
Gotcha.
The Vampire Slayer.
Gotcha.
Other characters other than just these kids, there's Josie and the Pussycats, who are a local band in Riverdale of 3 girls. I'm blanking on the names because my brain is
Josie, Melody, and...
I know, I'm so terrible.
I can look it up. Do you want me to look it up?
Yeah, I'll look it up.
I'll look it up.
Josie, Melody, and oh my god, my brain is made of nothing. But these 3 girls have like a little rock band and they wear cat ears. Valerie, thank you, my god.
Valorie's the best one. I'm sorry it took me the longest to remember your name.
It's the coffee is still kicking.
Why is she the best one?
Because Rosario Dawson played her in the movie.
We're gonna be talking. Oh my god! By the way, we're going to be talking about that movie.
That right?
Yes,
Yeah,
because that movie is amazing. That movie is amazing, and we're going to be talking about it. The Pussycats are very much like they're a little more glamorous. And it's a little bit. It's a battle of the band story, and they're always trying to get people to listen to their music and put on shows, and it's a lot of fun and rompy.
Archie also has a band. This is one of those, like, he's supposed to be really ordinary, but over the course of 70 years, he has done and been so many things.
The Archies.
Yeah, he
Archie
forms
and the
a
Archies.
band with the other characters, and during one of their wider pop culture reach moments, they have one of the best songs of all time, the terrible, terrible sugary pop hit, Sugar.
Which was also used by Hanna-Barbera. Like, everybody used Sugar. It's great. There's
the Blossoms.
There's the Blossom. Well, the Blossoms are a whole nother.
Well, okay, let's do the teachers, because an interesting thing about the Archie comics is, like, they're teen stories. So a lot of it is, like, Archie trying to study for a test in time to make his date with Veronica, which means you get Lovable, Miss Grundy, Principal Weatherby, who is Flutie? What does he teach? History?
God. I want to say history. I know. This is how well we've put this together.
Is that I'm crossing him with actual Principal Flutie from Buffy because I'm just thinking about teenagers now, not in a weird way.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now because.
So you have these sort of like, generally sympathetic but long-suffering adults in the Archie universe who, in traditional stories, are just dealing with the shenanigans of our cast. Usually, Reggie has glued something to something else.
Miss Phillips, Patton Howitzer, Miss Holly Simpson, Bernice Beasley, Coach Harry.
Oh, Miss Beasley.
Coach Cleats, a lot of coaches.
A lot of coaches.
Professor Flute Snoot, Elmer
Snoop.
Benjamin
That's
Flute
who I was
Snoop.
thinking.
Oh,
Science teacher. Yeah, it's the school itself also has like that amazing teaching staff that are all a little fuddy-duddy and a little weird. I mean, it's a cast of millions at this point in Archie.
Yeah.
A weird trivia point. One of the ways I discovered Archie, which is fascinating, was that the man who sort of got me into comic books on a certain level, Bill Leibowitz, the original owner of the Golden Apple comic book store, actually guested. He was drawn into several issues of Archie because he was a big Archie nerd.
You were telling me this and I was freaking out.
I think we may even have there might be a picture entitled Bill Leibowitz somewhere in that folder.
Oh my god, that's awesome!
I know, right?
And I picked up my first issue of Archie because he quite literally, there he is, there's Bill.
Oh my gosh.
He literally demanded, he's like, you're taking this and you're gonna like it.
Oh my
Oh my god!
Yeah, there's Bill.
They're in town for a meeting. You all run comic shops?
And Bill showed up a couple times. He was a big Archie booster. So I was at a store that really encouraged the reading of Archie comics.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
And we did several events where they had the artists and writers come in and talk. And I by that time I was working as a professional too. So there was much time spent at those tables just sort of grabbing their books and reading them. And
See, Archie was just like a magic thing that came from the sky for me for a long time. Like, before I knew, like, even after I had started to learn that comic books were made by humans, it still sort of didn't occur to me that someone had to come up with these characters and someone had written and drawn, like, all these people that I felt like were my cousins. Like, so famous names for those include Dan Parent, Dan DeCarlo, right?
Oh yeah.
Who are some notable creators who've worked on the...
Oh, I have I mean, there were so many different versions. Oh my god. Yeah, I have 8 pages of notes as part of the
Oh gosh, sorry. I'm jumping all over the place. I'm just excited. I love these comics for some freaking reason.
And one last character that we have to mention, who's another one of my favorite characters in the Archieverse, is Sabrina the Teenage Witch, who's one of the most famous characters from the Archie comics. Who is exactly what she sounds like. She is a teenage witch. And she is behind us.
Yeah.
By the fabulous Ken Wynn.
Ken Wynn put 60 Sabrina.
Ken Wynn.
Poor Ken, who was like, I don't know anything about Archie. He's like, I had to look this stuff up.
It looks great.
Bless him. Yeah, I love Sabrina on her broom, and Sabrina's a fascinating character, and she's gotten the most love because she got a movie and a TV series and all of these live action TV series. And
but she's also fascinating because this is where the Archie comics depart from reality.
Begin to get weird. This is where things get weird.
Somehow, like, she's literally a teenage witch.
She literally a teenage
magic.
witch.
She is raised by her aunts who are also witches.
And very much like Harry Potter, it's a secret hidden society. Like, no one's supposed to know about it. They're not supposed to practice magic in public, right? Am I correct?
It was a bit comedic at first, and like because you've read the modern stuff, which
I've read the modern stuff, yeah.
I mean, like, and it was played for comedy value because there came a point where you're 150 issues into the adventures of a teenager who's never leaving high school, although we'll get into that too, where they start needing to get a little weird, and you start getting you realize the metaphor I've been using is it's the martini metaphor, which is that a martini is gin and vermouth. This is just gin and a little bit of vermouth. And pretty much every martini is some combination of this until such point as they realize that they need more martinis. And we get vodka martinis, and then vodka martinis with apple flavor.
Appletini.
An appletini. It's now a martini. Is we've taken this formula that kind of works, that's solid and holds together. And Archie is a formula that holds together. It's the love triangle. It's the kids on the outside. It's the band. And now let's get them to meet the Predator. Or the cast of Glee.
Or a zombie outbreak.
Or let's have a zombie apocalypse with the Archie characters, which is Afterlife with Archie. Let's have Archie meet the Punisher. Let's have Archie meet the Ramones. Let's have them meet Kiss.
Let's have
The
Josie
band.
and the Pussycats go to outer space, which I didn't know was a thing that happened until yesterday.
Totally a thing that happened.
What?
That was a TV show.
Why'd they go to space?
To have adventures.
Did they play music in space?
Of course they do.
hope so.
No one can hear it.
I just watched the
but
theme
of course
song.
They do.
No one can hear your rock in space?
In space, no one can hear you rock. Let's reverse that. Sabrina,
a real show that existed.
Wow.
Sabrina opened a lot of doors with the type of stories that they could tell, and really helps. Every now and then they need to travel back in time and meet the Ramones to learn a valuable lesson, and Sabrina's there to help make that happen. It's what she does.
Because she's magic.
Oh, so they
she's
have
the
their
teenage
own
witch.
like weird superhero alter egos who come and go.
Yeah, it gets very. Oh,
It's a real thing.
oh, that'll never fly.
It's not designed. Yep.
Yeah, there were several animated series for both Josie and Archie.
That's amazing. Oh my god.
Seatbelts
See her little
are-
cat
are-
seatbelt thing.
I love this so much.
There are aliens and there's
And apparently the monarch. I just saw the
It's
monarch
just-
for a second.
It's the best. Oh my god.
I love that the
love
theme song
this.
contains like no evidence that they're a rock band.
Really?
From this anyway, I'm
No,
trying to
they're
remember
really
like
astronauts
the
with
lyrics
ears.
probably.
This is the best thing
Was
ever.
that Salem or was that one of their other cats?
I think that was another cat. I don't think that was Salem. I've never actually seen the Josie the Pussycats in Outer Space
In outer
television
space?
series,
Oh my
but
God.
it is a thing.
So going like you told me so on Sabrina, you said Matt, you should read the new Sabrina the
should
Teenage
do the
Witch.
Sabrina the Teenage
and
Witch.
in my head, I was like, okay, okay, like I'll give it like I have to do it for the show, but whatever.
I'm never wrong.
No, I know, and you know me very well. So, but
I
like
knew
this
you'd-
was one excuse where like this is not excuse. This was one time where I was like, Taliesin, I love you,
But no.
but like I wasn't a big fan of the '90s show, and that was targeted at me as like because that was my age. I just never got into it.
I was not there for the '90s show either.
I liked what I saw of it. I never saw much of it, but I was just like, I think I had already developed the I am proud that this thing based on comics exists gene, like
I
by the
hadn't
time that
gotten
show
it.
came
Yeah.
along. So I just approved of it, even though I never really saw very much of it.
Yeah. So like I like Salem. I was like, that's a talking cat. I like that, but that's kind of it. So like when you were like last week, you were like, yeah, you know, we'll read Archie, and I was like, all right, I'm familiar with Archie more or less, and I've been watching Riverdale. And then you were like, but you should also read Sabrina. I was like, I'm not like no, like I'm not gonna do that. But then Comixology had a big like 50% off sale on all their Archie
I know.
stuff.
I'm sad that we were a week behind. I feel a little bad about that because Archie books are expensive. Although there's a lot of it available on the Comixology monthly, which
Yeah.
I'm hoping
On the unlimited.
on the
unlimited,
Nice.
which is just like
it's a service you should
$5
look
a
at.
month.
You should look into that. Make sure that they have titles that you want to read, but they probably will, and you should look into it because it's an affordable way to read a lot of comics. But
And the Archie books are expensive. That is,
Yeah.
if I have any complaint, and
They're not
it's a-
really necessarily out of keeping with other comics, but comics themselves are expensive.
No, and,
right?
and you get
Like,
and you get a lot for your money. That is the one other thing is like that is one issue of a book for like $4 to $6, but it's a big issue with a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually like 10 or 15 pieces of beautiful art on top of the book, also of like all the alternate covers that they give you. The interior art is always consistently beautiful. Like you never feel like they're
we're talking about single issues
Single
of the new
issues,
stuff.
yeah.
Like okay,
like you get a lot. You get a lot for your money. I will say that. Like I never feel like they rushed it.
yeah,
are they not mostly $3.99?
No, they're more expensive. Like it's an expensive book. I could look
So-
it up and.
but you were right. I read like I opened Sabrina on my Comixology, and I was like, this is beautiful artwork. Like they've got me there, and within the first page or two, like Sabrina's dad is like murdering the mom, and it's just like, whoa, what? This is not Sabrina. What?
And the full title of this book is
I think it's just Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Chilling
Right?
Adventures.
Oh, the
Really?
Chilling
Chilling
Adventures of
Adventures?
Sabrina. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
that wasn't meant to be a
chilling.
test. I just wanted
It
to
is.
say the title.
I thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. It is chilling. Like the main villain of the book is so far that I've read.
Look at that cover. Look at that cover. Ah, that's spectacular.
It is so good.
So there's a very interesting name at the top of that one. Roberto, I'm gonna mess this
Aguirre
up.
Sakasa, who also
Where's Sakasa?
wrote this.
Mm-hmm.
So
What
Roberto
is-
is an interesting cat, man. Roberto's a really interesting cat. I'm going to talk about Roberto. Really
Why don't you
quickly.
tell us about Roberto?
One of the interesting things about Archie, and this whole, I will admit, this entire episode is me badgering you for 2 hours to buy Archie books. This is me badgering you for 2 hours to buy Archie books. Roberto, one of the things Archie has always, I don't want to say struggled with, but they've realized that by their very nature, Archie is always slightly out of date.
Yeah.
It is a fight that Archie has been having since the 40s that it's always felt old-fashioned. And because of that, they have kind of been more proactive about trying to be less old-fashioned than a lot of other comic publishers. They work hard to not be too out of step. There's a lot of work keeping Archie. Archie can very easily become your parents' book, and even your parents think of it as their parents' book if they're not careful.
It's an interesting balance because that feeling of timelessness is a huge portion of its appeal. Like, parents trust it because they know that there's not going to be, like, crazy nonsense inside. They know the look of the characters. They know kind of what to expect, but that also limits sort of their potential audience because people feel like they already know exactly what to expect from the book. So there have been a lot of attempts over the years to update or reimagine the characters, most of which don't stick.
No, but also, I mean,
now.
like even in the and nothing's in the 2000s. I mean, like there was even like they were already having conversations of how do we make.
There was a 90s new look, wasn't there?
There was a 90s new look. There's been several. There was a
remember
future
being
version
creeped
of
out
married Archie, which we'll get into in a little
yeah.
bit, which was a whole thing, which was weird, but
Yes.
its own thing. And there was also they were already having summits in the 2000s about how do we make Archie more inclusive before the word inclusive was being used.
There is a
for anything.
storyline where 50 new kids joined the school because a nearby school closed down. And it was very interesting because they just tried to go ahead and hang a lampshade on this. We need a bunch of new characters. And what's like, so the part of these efforts have to be judged over time, and your mileage is going to vary. But one of my very favorite things is that, like, of all these occasionally short-lived attempts to add stuff to the Archie mythos, a lot of them haven't stuck. But it's one reason I was so proud to watch the pilot for Riverdale and see Kevin Keller show up.
Oh yeah, and Kevin was a big hit for Archie, and we'll get into Kevin in a minute. But one of the reasons that this happened is because back in 2003, there was a stage play. I want to make sure I get that. I think in Georgia. Where was this being held? Atlanta, Georgia. There was a stage play called Archie's Weird Fantasy that was being staged about an adult Archie coming to terms with being gay. And like coming home and having this conversation, and that was what the play was about. And of course, the writer-director of this stage play got a cease and desist, obviously. And they were like, "We are not comfortable with this. Please don't do this play." What was the exact wording? Was would dilute and tarnish the image of Archie, which is gentle language for that time. So they had to rewrite the play a little bit. They changed all the names of the character and just called it Weird Comic Book Fantasy, and put the play on. The man who put the play on, Roberto,
Oh my God!
No!
Would eventually become the chief creative officer of Archie Comics.
What? What? Are you serious?
That is what the internet tells me. I was reading up on this, going, that cannot be possible.
Can we get Roberto on the phone and ask him?
Do we know anyone who knows him?
I know, because I would love to hear. And I find that fascinating that this popped up. This made me very happy. This is don't quote us on any of this, but this is a wonderful story that exists on the internet that has to be true. It's too good not to be.
But he wrote like Afterlife, which is great.
Oh,
he's writing Sabrina the Teenage
He's
Witch,
been instrumental
which is great.
with some spectacular updating of the Archie universe, which we will also. For those who want to know where to start with Archie, boy, we're going to be getting into that. It's really easy. Archie has made it really easy to get into Archie. It's awesome. But yeah, that's such a fascinating place to take the character, and one of the things that Archie was really good about was sexuality. It's been very, very good about talking about sexuality ever since they decided that for their first kind of jaunt into inclusiveness to create a gay character. They're like, what will happen if we create a gay character? And
So this was circa 2010, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to say yeah.
And I don't remember, actually. It was either shortly before or shortly after, like, the 50 new kids got to school.
2010. Veronica issue number 202, September 2010.
I shouldn't remember that, but I do, because I remember when
Kevin
that issue
Keller.
came to stores, because I'm a vampire.
You're a vampire hiding that you're pretending that you don't know things?
Yeah.
As if I needed an excuse to love you more.
So this was great. They, Archie, and so one of the interesting things about Kevin Keller is, like, I remember us all being terrified that they were going to mangle this. Like,
Yeah.
Because it was like, Archie's introducing a gay character. It's from an openly gay character.
Yeah.
From 1940 to 2010, this had not, like, if there had been previous attempts at this, no one knew about them. And we were just like, please don't be awful. This it would be really great if this. And so what they went with,
meet the hot new guy.
what they went with, which I thought was adorable, was like the introductory storyline from Kevin Keller is that he shows up and Veronica's like, yes, you, the cute one.
Oh my god!
And they have
And he is pretty. Kevin is
a
a very pretty man.
Boy, pretty man.
He's a little older than them. He's slightly
in
older.
high school.
Yeah, although they've pushed him since a little bit.
In the
if I
show, he's
recall.
the same age.
Yeah,
if
in the
that
show
matters,
he's the same age.
I
I thought he was a year ahead, if I recall.
He might be. They try to stay really vague about where everybody is in high school because they've been in high school since 1940.
Not smart kids.
So Kevin Keller shows up and Veronica's like, you. And I think it's actually, this is one of the better uses of Jughead. Finds out right away. Kevin's like, oh, I didn't mean to, like, oh, I don't want Veronica to get the wrong idea. I'm gay. Like, and Jughead's like, that's awesome. This is going to be hilarious. And so they just play it out as sort of like a mistaken identity comedy, and then settle down into what you would sort of inevitably hope would be the dynamic, which is that as soon as Veronica is clued into the truth, she's like, cool, new best friend, we can have good taste together. So in that sense, like, he's stereotypy in that, like, yes, he does become Veronica's fashion buddy, but like...
And they do that in the show really relatively well. Like, they are, like, kind of thick as thieves in a lot of different places, like, always conspiring together kind of stuff, so...
And it's tough because he immediately landed in, like, the classic only gay kid problem, but it was still an improvement on the no gay kids problem. And so my big thing, like, I vividly remember these issues coming out and being like, please let this not be something that disappears into the funny failed experiments of history for Archie Comics. And it didn't.
It didn't. It sold so well it sold so well in September 2010 that it became the first. It was the first time that Archie Comics ever had to do a second printing of a book.
Really?
It was the very first second printing Archie Comics has ever had to do.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which was they certainly rewarded them for trying to take some risks with their books as they were fighting.
And people protested and they were mad. And
Wait, people. Well, that seems out of character.
I know, it's weird.
People protesting,
and but it won awards. It did very well. Things and it led to this slow, interesting morphing of the Archie comic book series into what it is today in the modern version of Archie. And I suppose, unless we want to take a couple questions.
Yeah, we've got
let's take a couple questions and we'll start talking about modern Archie.
Who wrote the Kevin Keller issue? Does it say that on Veronica 202?
While you're looking that up, let me throw this question out. How are Archie, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and Josie and the Pussycats related? Do they exist in the same universe? I feel like we've already kind of answered that.
They do, but they shouldn't.
Yeah, like it's weird because like the current Sabrina book takes place in the 60s. But
these books are a special case. The supernatural
timeless, right?
books are their own deal.
Elseworldsy,
yeah. But like Sabrina, like the current Sabrina run,
Dan Parent wrote it. Like
nice.
The Archie guy,
the current Sabrina run is taking place in the 60s, where the current Archie run is taking place in the 2000s. But we see Sabrina show up in Jughead,
and it's that Sabrina,
which
is really fascinating.
It's which Sabrina?
It's the 60s. I'm like, it's her and her aunts, and like they're not modernizing her really. It's like it almost feels like
traveled.
It only
from the
feels
60s.
like the house is just sort of shifted in time, which actually they've established that the house can do. So it's tough to tell.
But it's not Chilling Adventures Sabrina. It's traditional Sabrina, is what you're saying. I haven't gotten that far yet.
Oh, the traditional Sabrina basically is the Chilling Adventures Sabrina.
But what I mean is for people literally curious about whether these stories connect.
They don't connect.
Yeah. Not the same.
But it's the same characters,
Yeah.
and you can kind of treat them. There's no reason why you can't pretend they're the same person.
You can headcanon it.
You can headcanon it. They may end up tying them together. It's tough to tell. Although Afterlife, what are they called? Archie Horror. There's a name for it actually.
Yeah, Archie Horror. I think it's Archie Horror.
The Archie Horror books definitely kind of have their own thing.
I don't want to mess up the narrative of this, but because it was so sort of funny to watch it happen, like creative iteration
Look at that cover. Every cover is just work of art.
And for the record, they're not a thing.
They are definitely not a thing. They are weirdly.
They're like weird best friends.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So
friends with magical benefits is what I'm calling it now.
important note. We'll get to Jughead sexuality at a future point.
Oh, we will.
This was just really fun to watch happen. And if you have a better telling of this, let me know. But like watching, I was always interested in these little Archie experiments of like, is this gonna catch on? You know, so I was invested when the new kids got there. I was invested like heavily when Kevin showed up in like what was gonna happen. And around that same year, I think, there was this enormous sequence of like experiments that led to other experiments. There was a sequence in the regular Archie comics somewhere in the 600s, because that numbering just ran. Nobody expected you to read 600 issues of Archie. It's just a way to keep track of which one you're on. They had been running sort of like mini storylines for a while, a little bit more like modern comics. They would be sold in like monthly booklet style comics that you would recognize, like Archie 600, whatever. The other way most of us read Archies are in the digest, which is the term for those little thicker ones, which usually are $5 to $7 and give you like 80, 100 pages of story, a mix usually of reprints from different decades. But in the regular, like ongoing Archie things, they were continuity light, but they had started to get to the point where they'd have little storylines, like a 4-parter where he travels the world, or like there was a memorable one in Betty and Veronica where they studied abroad for a while, and they switched places. In one case, which gave me mixed feelings because I was like, Betty would never betray her host family like that. But this is an interesting story. I have a lot of feelings.
Betty wouldn't do that.
I mean, she's deceiving them. But it was a great story for like them exploring being in each other's shoes for a little bit. So they got into this like stories and trying weird ideas a little bit. And they had one summer a crazy like, what if we made an Archie Comics event? This will be, they're all getting ready, we'll decide that they're all getting ready to graduate from high school. And they'll all be reminiscing about their high school experiences. And Archie, instead, he will go to a literal place in the woods called Memory Lane, where he was planning to walk down it. And he goes, what if I walked up instead? And he literally comes to a fork in the road. And
in the distance, you see the Christmas door in the tree and the Halloween door in the tree. Like, it's that... I mean, you don't, but, like, it's very much... It's very Nightmare Before Christmas. It's so ridiculous.
And he walks down one of those roads, and there was a 6-part storyline in the Archie comics, which I think was called Archie Gets Married, right?
Yeah, it was, and then eventually became Life with Archie.
So this is the crazy, like, thing spinning into thing. This was just a 6-part story that they were like, we have figured out, like, that... getting press attention and doing big crazy things sells comics. We're a little late to it compared to the 80s with the rest of comics, but we're gonna try. This is not to
I love that cover. There's a yeah.
So yes, that is, what was that, an alternate cover for Life with Archie?
Yeah, that was an alternate cover. That was the
So we are 37 issues into the follow-up by the time that's happening. Okay, so there's a 6-part story, Archie Gets Married. It still looks like the Archie comics you remember, slightly like tweaked, but this one is done in the traditional style. And it's a 6-part story, basically, I think it was like 3-issue look at what if he grows up and marries Veronica, and a 3-issue look at what if he grows up and marries
Betty.
So they finally answered the age-old question of who is he going to pick by saying...
He chose both.
Both of them.
One road he goes down goes this way.
God.
It gets weirder.
One road he goes down goes this way.
Oh, it gets weirder.
And
Keep going.
So wait, when did these come out?
Circa 2010?
2010. Okay, same around like Kevin and stuff like that. Okay.
I have a button
maybe
for that.
2009.
Because curse you, Taliesin, I'm so on board with all this Archie
I know
stuff
it's so ridiculous how awesome this
It's
shit
literally
is.
Memory Lane on a signpost in the woods.
We're going to go up memory lane.
Yeah, what if I walk
It's
up
the most Doctor Who shit
It's
ever.
amazing. So this was this story, like 3 issues of looking at what his life would be like marrying, like, and the thing that they notably do is that like both are essentially happy stories. The meta narrative here is that like both of these are valid choices. He could be happy either way. But his life would look different, obviously, and different things would happen to the other people in the background, and that's part of where the fun comes in of like, okay, so if he marries Veronica, they move off to the big city. Obviously, he takes a job with her dad. If he marries Betty, they stay here and they become teachers, I think is what happens. So These issues sold like crazy and got a ton of attention because if you say this to an outsider, Archie's getting married, they're like, they're changing 70 years of story? He's leaving high school?
I remember hearing about that. Like, I would go to the comic book shop and people would be talking about it, and I was like, wow, they're finally doing it.
Yeah.
Good for them. Like, that's great.
It took a while.
Yep. So that wrapped up. They made a little paperback out of it, which, like, again, is not something they always do. Most collections of Archie are just like some stories from the 50s. It's not normally like I need volume 7 so I know what happens before volume 8. It's not that kind of book. But this was like, at least for us, and I'm guessing for the company, a blockbuster hit. This like 6-part look into the future. What if Archie gets married? Version A, version B.
Well, and this was definitely like comics were pushing this kind of thing at the time, and they were definitely going from like 11 Archie books to like 40 in 40 different releases by 2030. Like they were they were trying to brand Archie really hard.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So that worked. What if we decide? Because at some point they realized that like. Their main audience is selling to like kids and families, but a lot of the people who bought Archie Got Married were people like me. People who were like, I've loved these characters for decades. I have to see whether it's good or not. I have to know what happens. And they were like, oh, this is a way we like. And I guess it may have taken them a while to figure this out. They tried to launch comics are this size. They did a magazine.
Yeah.
They did a magazine, and they called it Life with Archie, a title that they borrowed from one of the other, like, Archie's had a million different titles and runs. Archie and Friends, Pals and Gals, Pep Comics, like, Life with Archie was another older one that hadn't been going in a while. So they decided Life with Archie would be a good title, that they would have a monthly magazine tracking both of the potential futures. Half the magazine was the Betty future, and half the magazine was the Veronica future. And
God.
Yeah.
This was just going on alongside the like regular Archies and high school comics and all the digest reprints of everything. And in the future, this is where we get things like they figured out they could make headlines with this stuff, but they also made genuine ground with it because these are the comics in the future where, for instance, we find out what happens to Kevin Keller.
Yep.
What happens to Kevin Keller?
He grows up and he joins the army and he meets a very nice man, and they get married.
And it's adorable.
Oh.
And this, again, like it being 2017, it doesn't sound like a huge deal, but gay wedding in Archie comics
was a big deal.
Was a big deal.
Well, gay wedding in Archie comics in the military.
Yeah, and it's great, but it's a fun book. I read it. It was a fun book.
And they ended up leaning pretty heavily into the soap opera stuff. Once they figured out that most of the people reading were not like teenagers but grown-ups, they were like, all right, and now this person's gonna get sick, and this person's gonna deal with marital stress, and like they didn't go super like edgy grimdark.
Stress?
Well, no, I mean, like, we're not going to delve too dark into this, but how does it end? Life with Archie eventually ends.
It does, and it just keeps getting weirder. And so,
I'm loving that you're
by the way,
this.
in the meantime, they because they're leaning into these things that work for other comics that aren't really typical for Archie. One of those things is to have alternate covers, variant covers. Variant covers aren't a huge deal for Archie because there's not really like. The kids in the supermarket are not like, gotta get both versions of the Pals and Gals Digest 893. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I have both versions, but yeah, carry on.
So, since they're doing these sort of riskier, weirder things, and it's a variant cover, you can order it or not order it, they talked to a wonderful artist named Francesco Francavilla, and they commissioned an alternate cover for, I don't know which issue this was at first, but it was just a variant cover for that Life with Archie Crazy Future mag, was like this horror movie version of the Archie characters. It was just a variant cover. It was just like oh, look how cool. And I should have pulled this image up.
I know, I didn't think to pull it up either. But
everyone was like, not only is that super cool looking, but it gives us ideas. I don't know, maybe this whole thing has been Ruroto's plan, and he's just like known that this entire path was coming, and the rest of us are being surprised by every crazy left turn. But you know what I mean? So this magazine that the future is going, and that cover like was a huge splash.
Yeah.
Like it was beautiful.
What was on the
piece of
cover?
art.
Do you remember?
Can you find
the
Francavilla variant Life with Archie should do it.
Life with Archie. Okay, I'm doing this variant.
Thank you. Sorry.
Watch us type, internet. It's fascinating,
I know
isn't it?
it's quite fascinating. I'm also how did they?
I
end,
underestimated how excited I would be to talk about all this. I'm
I
really
knew
You
sorry.
underestimated
it
my
would be,
excitement to hear it.
very
Keep going.
Franco.
Francavilla.
Francavilla. I can't spell.
Okay, so keep
Because I
going.
think they did more than one of them, but
They did a ton of them. I think that was it was that. Oh, it was because it was also the death of Archie.
was it the final issue?
I think
Okay.
they did a okay.
Funny
Yeah.
story. Spoilers for Life with Archie.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
But at some point, they're like, this magazine is gonna come to an end. I don't know if the sales were falling down or whatever. Like, it had a good run. For a crazy experiment like that. I think it got to the 30s, 36 or 37.
These are some really depressing covers I'm looking at.
And all right, I am going
There
to
we are, yeah.
ruin this for all of you.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it made news. So if you Google
It
Archie,
did.
this pops up, and they've had
But
time.
here's the key element is that with everything that had happened over 3 years of following the version where he marries Betty and the version where he marries Veronica, they end the same way.
Yeah.
There is literally a story written without it being clear who he's talking to when he's talking to his wife. They end literally
The same
with the
way.
same story.
And he dies?
And Kevin Keller, who I think is running for Congress
At that point,
at
yeah,
this
I feel like
point.
I feel like he's running for.
That's amazing.
Like-
Kevin,
you
Kevin
do.
did well. Kevin did very well.
Good for you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Good for Kevin.
Good for Kevin. Spoilers for Life with Archie. In this crazy future book, apparently no matter what happens, all roads lead to Kevin Keller running for Congress and some crazy person coming after him, and Archie takes a bullet for Kevin Keller.
What?
And he dies a hero.
Oh my
and his
God.
widow, Betty, and or Veronica, stands by his graveside. And they have a conversation about how they I think, if I'm remembering this right, because it has been a couple years now,
been a while.
there's a conversation with both of them sort of talking about how they're going to miss him, which is designed so that you can read it no matter which version of the story you are following, which, how weird is that?
It was amazing.
Like, you've had
Oh.
your whole adult lives, like, and it ends with you having a conversation that could have looked exactly the same no matter what happened, where you're both mourning Archie, because you're Betty and you're Veronica, and that's what you do.
Oh my god.
Have we just broken you?
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
That's
you did that.
amazing.
That was a great rundown of that, by the way. That was amazing.
I
Oh.
might have been paying too much attention to this.
No, this was great.
Here's where it gets weirder.
Oh well, where do you want to go for weirder? Because there's a
One
lot
of these
weirder.
variant covers was the zombie one.
Which
one
is-
of these variant covers for Life with Archie was just a not connected to the story, just for fun, cool piece of art, like zombie version of things, and they were like, "What is your next trick?"
So yeah, so now they've established the notion of an Archie Elseworlds.
So they have Life with Archie.
Which becomes
Afterlife
Afterlife with Archie.
Oh
which
my
is
god.
which is the Zombie Apocalypse Archie book, which is what we have right here. Is our Zombie Apocalypse Archie book. It's amazing. Oh yeah, and this art, I mean, like, oh my god,
So
this art.
we're just gonna tell you where it starts because you should go read it. But it starts with Jughead.
Oh, I will flip to that page. Oh yeah, this is
He just wants to save his dog.
his
so he
dog
goes
got
to
hit by a car, so he goes to his
his
witch friend.
He goes to his best friend with magical benefits,
Yeah.
Sabrina, and asks her to
Reanimate the corpse
save
of
the
his
dog,
buddy.
his dog Hot Dog.
Yeah,
And
his dog's name is Hot Dog, by the way.
Her aunts say we can't do that.
Like, you don't.
He begs them to try, and they say that's necromancy, that's forbidden, we can't do that. They come after him.
And Sabrina
revives the dog anyway,
And here she is getting yelled at by her aunts right over here.
and like their
Yeah.
evil witch form, and they sent us her to Netherworld or
They,
whatever.
they take away her mouth and say, "You're spending a year in the Netherworld, Missy."
yeah, that's her punishment. She's grounded to the Netherworld for a year.
Yeah,
In
and
the meantime, the dog does come back to life, then attacks Jughead, and Jughead becomes a vampire at the Halloween dance
it's amazing.
and attacks everybody. Done. Go
It's-
read it.
Zombie.
Go read it.
Yeah,
it's
zombie.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, zombie. Yeah, he's
Sorry.
zombie Jughead.
So, and interestingly, in terms of the publishing format stuff, Afterlife with Archie started in the magazine format that they had.
Oh, did
like,
it?
They were like, because the idea was sort of like, I think that they were like, we can carry the audience for Life with Archie now that that's ending into our new experiment, and hopefully it'll get distribution in places. And it pretty quickly sort of shifted into comic book format. And the one bummer, like, this comic has been a sales and critical smash hit. It has been plagued by some pretty serious delays.
That is a thing. Thankfully, you'll be coming to it now, so it won't hurt you quite as badly as those of us who've been like, please, 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 publish your book. Oh, God, please.
But in the meantime, it is being written by Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa and drawn by Francesco Francavilla, following up on that partnership that they established when Francavilla was just contributing weird, lovely variant covers to Life with Archie.
So Archie Horror has continued to be is a publishing. There's actually currently 3 books under Archie Horror, which are Afterlife with Archie, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which is a great pop 60s. It's got a lot of Tales from the Crypt vibe.
And the early Afterlife with Archie's actually came published with like old Gold and Silver Age horror stories in the back.
Yeah.
They were sort of deliberately saying, look, we're reaching back into publishing tradition to call back to these different eras, even as we update the books.
And a new one that I haven't read yet, which just the first issue is out, which is called Jughead the Hunger.
I think it may be a one-shot.
It may be a one-shot? I don't know. It says issue 1. So
Yeah,
it's up
there
to
it is.
tell.
Is he a vampire?
I think he's a werewolf. I think his hunger comes from somewhere deep within.
The hunger.
The
For his
hunger.
Which is a
hamburgers?
joke because
Yeah.
Jughead loves food. We
Jughead
forgot to say
hamburgers, yeah.
that,
Jughead
but
loves
Jughead
food.
loves food.
He's always after hamburgers. He's kind of like Wimpy from Popeye.
A little bit of wimpy.
I'll only pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
So before we move on to modern Archie, because we just covered Archie Horror, and there's one last thing that I want to talk about, which is that there have been Archie radio plays, Archie television shows, and Archie movies forever. Like, this is one of those things that exists. I think I have one of the vintage from like was it like a 1970s attempt to make it was like an adult Archie Return to Riverdale. I think that's in the photo library. There's a black and white photo I may have just given you. It was in the brand new stuff. I remember watching this black and white like TV movie, or it was a color TV movie, but Return to Riverdale.
Wow.
There we are. Is that like, yeah, that's a thing.
Look at the bangs.
So many bangs.
Look at Jughead.
Oh yeah, it's kind of spectacular.
Jughead looks really familiar. Who is that?
I don't know. I'd
Yeah,
have to
that
look it
does
up,
look-
but it does stir something. But beyond all of this, there is a movie, and oh my God, there is a 1990s movie, the Josie and the Pussycats film. Now, we've already confessed, both of us, that we love Archie, and I had a funny feeling this would go over well. We didn't talk about it. I love the Josie and the Pussycats film. I love Josie and the Pussycats. I watched this movie. There we are. I watch this movie easily once a year.
Wow.
I really badly need to see it again.
It is spectacular.
I have never seen it.
Okay, without spoiling anything.
I mean, are you surprised by that I've never seen it?
No, and when you're in the mood, we're gonna sit and watch it because it is like everybody's in it. Alan Cummings is in it.
Alan Cummings is amazing.
Oh God, I'm trying. Like, where's the cast? I'm gonna pull this up.
Can I spoil what happens right at the beginning?
No, go ahead. With du jour?
Yes.
Oh yeah, please.
Josie and the Pussycats is a self-aware pop culture commentary meta story.
Okay.
I call it the junior high school version of Empire Records. It's so good.
Yeah, but it's also
Jody Hauser wants a screening for me, stat.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We should do that.
I have
That'd
it
be
on
fun.
DVD at my house. It's a thing.
We should do
Josie
that.
and the
Jody
Pussycats-
Hauser will let you know.
That movie, which you'll your mileage will vary widely on this movie, but it sort of said what a late 90s. When did they make that movie?
It says right
it was
here. Hold on.
mid-90s?
No, it's 2001.
2001. Okay.
Although it feels very 90s. It is a very 90s movie.
It is very specifically grounded. Like you can the styles, the tropes, the hair, the attitudes, the sort of packaging.
Rosie O'Dawson, Tara Reid as Melody, not as Melody. Tara Reid at her best.
Yeah.
Which is a thing. Oh God,
The Melody
Parker
character's
Posey
very
at her
dumb.
best.
Yeah.
Parker Posey is the bad guy.
Carson Daly.
Oh my God.
Carson
you
Daly.
sold me with Parker Posey bad
We're
guy.
watching a clip in the background.
Carson Daly as Carson Daly and Ari Spears as the other Carson Daly. Oh my God. It's amazing.
So it is intended as a setup and deconstruction down to the casting of Rachel Lee Cook as playing a deconstruction of pop teen movies from the 90s.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
She plays Josie in Josie and the Pussycats, and the basic narrative is that they're like a band who's going to struggle with whether to sell out and become a big cultural force. And it begins with these guys,
With
Oh
De
my
Jour.
god.
the ultimate boy band,
De Jour.
Du jour. Which, of course,
Was
is
that
a French
sad?
word meaning
Oh.
of the day.
Of the day, yeah.
Because they are disposable. They are disposable pop icons, is the idea. And spoilers for the beginning of Josie and the Pussycats, Du jour dies in a plane crash, and a big label needs a new set of faces.
Yeah.
Cut to adorable kid next door garage band Josie and the Pussycats, who are getting their shot at circa 2001 stardom
But do they really want it?
via
Oh,
Alan Cumming and Piper.
It's
what's her name?
Parker Posey.
And Parker
Posey,
Posey.
thank you.
It is so much more than that. It is. She is being kind because she's not spoiling anything. This movie, it's so much more than that. There are. It is so
There's a
powerfully
little bit
self-aware.
of, yeah, there's a
I
little bit of
love
like
movies
that
that are
walk
self-aware
up
like that,
memory
too.
lane. We're just gonna do this thing that it says on the tin, but like 100% aware that we are doing it, and then we'll become like a crazy deconstruction of everything that we are doing.
It loves its source material. It loves what it's making fun of. It's never making fun of these movies.
It's having
It's
fun
loving
with.
them. It
Yeah.
loves them. It's having fun with them. It's self-aware. It's got a lot of actually. If there's any movie also that I would say it has a lot in common with A Hard Day's Night. It has a lot of Hard Day's Night going on. I know that's big. That's a lot of pressure to put on this film. There's also like cameo. There's like I don't even want to call it cameos, but like Alexander and Alexandra Cabot, who are big characters in the Josie books, are there, including and like this is the only joke I'm gonna. And please, if you don't want to hear this, is at one point Alexandra is being Alexandra, and somebody angrily turns to her and is like, "Why are you even here?" And without missing a beat, she's like, "I'm in the comic," and just keeps going, and it's brilliant. And you're like, "Well, of course."
And it plays perfectly with the tone of the film,
yeah, it's
right?
like, I'm in the comic, whatever.
in the comic, yeah.
Yeah, and they just keep going. they just steamroll past it with no
my
fucks
God.
given.
It's
Oh.
weirdly like it's an incredibly ambitious thing where they were like, I bet we can do this. I bet we can take all of these pop culture tropes and do this whole commentary on pop culture and marketing and packaging with this
Everything
like,
Gem and the
almost
Hologram
sci-fi
should
kind
have
of.
been.
It's a nutty piece of pop culture that I love.
And the music is while somewhat generic, really pleasing.
I was in a college a cappella group and we covered Three Small Words, so I can
Oh,
objectively
3
comment
small
on
words. I can
this.
sing it. I can fucking sing it. It's a problem. I'm aware.
Oh my god.
All your lives to come undone.
Oh my god. Oh, you're my spirit
Oh
animal.
god, it's the worst. It's the best.
Oh, it's the worst. It's the best. It's great.
It's the worst best.
So that was our impassioned plea for everyone to go out. and
They got a
watch
real band
Jesse.
though. Letters from Cleo, right?
Yeah, it was great.
Did
I mean, this was,
like these
so
pop
nice.
punk numbers for the band?
Really?
In
Yeah, it's
Josie.
amazing.
Oh my
Am
god.
I getting that right, or am I confusing it with
Yes,
Save
please,
Paris
chat
in
room.
10 Things?
Tell us
I
what
think it was
we're-
Letters from Cleo.
I'll look up the. I'm looking up the stuff just because I have no idea.
So we don't know why Archie's in our DNA, and we're endlessly fascinated by all of these retellings and reinterpretations. Like I don't have an answer to that. Like,
I think
and
it's
I'm curious
because
because I
there's,
don't
like-
think they have the same international penetration. Like a lot of the characters we talk about, like
Well, this
people
is a
know
very
who Batman is everywhere.
Americana.
Americana was the word I
Very
was just
Americana,
thinking of.
yeah.
This is super Americana. If there was like if we were going to delve deep into American gods right now, I would say that Archie is definitely there. There is a weird
The god of
Yeah.
teenage
is very much or almost nostalgia, the god of nostalgia. At that point. There is,
Oh, yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not an unhealthy nostalgia. It's a very
the
positive.
perpetual retro now.
Yeah, and never the way things were, but the way things ought to be. Even with the way things ought to be is a positive idea.
Yeah.
I do have to throw this out there though, because deconstructions of Archie. My absolute favorite one to ever exist is not an actual Archie comic. It is Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips' Criminal: Last of the Innocent. Have you read this?
No.
Oh, you're gonna flip out.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Pitch me. Bring it.
So Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips do a comic called Criminal, which is usually
Yeah.
like a 5 or 6 part standalone story, and most
Hard-boiled
of them
noir.
are like they're hard-boiled noir crime stories, and most of them are set in like this interconnected each one is a standalone story, but for instance, like the third or fourth arc is like in the 70s about characters who are family members of people you met in
Coward's
the
a
first
big one for me. I love Coward.
Coward is the
Coward's great.
first one, and it's a perfect beginning. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to know anything. It's just, like, I'm not actually, like, crime isn't I'm automatically in genre.
No, me neither.
And I love these books.
They're great.
So,
Brubaker.
volume, he's
handles
real
crime.
good.
Revolutionized Captain America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
volume 5 or 6 of Criminal is a storyline called Last of the Innocents, which you should just Google right now.
Oh, I'm actually on Comixology. I'm just going to buy
And
it
what's
right
interesting is, like, I think, if I have my chronology right, this came out, or I read this before a lot of this sort of Afterlife with Archie, like, adult re-examination stuff was happening, although it's obviously something that people think about and is in their brains all the time. The cover of Last of the Innocent is up right now. And Last of the Innocent is very obviously about Archie. His name's not Archie, and his town isn't called Riverdale, but you will recognize everything in it, down to the fact that it is told with 2 different art styles, which I think are both Sean Phillips. But Sean Phillips doing a Sean Phillips version of Archie comics for the memories, and Sean Phillips doing his regular Beautiful Crime comics for the present day. And Last of the Innocents, Archie picked Veronica, and it was not a happy...
I just bought it, so
Yeah.
that worked out well.
I can't wait. You have to... I'm gonna stop describing it because I need you to just report back in.
I'm excited.
It is, like, it's just a really fun story that like, before I had any of this, before there was, like, Archie zombie stuff, this was this, like, interesting and sophisticated and depressing look.
So let's take a couple questions, and then let's delve into
KB
today.
KB Tibbs says
Tibbs.
it was 100% letters to Cleo.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Question from Captain Kersey. I'm gonna say, you mentioned something about Jughead earlier about his sexuality. Could you please expand?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
we're about to go modern.
Oh,
so
yeah, we haven't even
okay.
made it there yet. Oh, my
Okay,
God.
so-
I know. There's so much. There's so much.
What year is it now? What year is it when Mark Wade and Fiona Staples...
2015.
2015. It feels like
Yeah,
100
just
years
started,
ago.
yeah.
Mark Wade says the smartest thing I've ever heard a man say. There's nothing wrong with Archie. Nothing needs fixing. And he and Fiona Staples get together to
Fiona
do
Staples, who
The
does
artist is
Saga.
Saga to reboot a brand new Archie book.
This is the trickiest thing to do is to try to change Archie without changing him.
Yeah.
Because we love all these riffs. We love, like, the town getting murdered by the Predator or whatever. But that's in some ways, it's easier.
It's
easier
so much
to do a
easier.
messed up version than it is to try to stay faithful while doing something new.
Because you can break it and walk away and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Which Ed Brubaker does brilliantly.
Yeah.
But, like, that, I wouldn't want that to be my regular Archie comic.
It's easy. It's easy. Any comic book character, any iconic character at all, it's very easy to break, and it's always a fun read. It's a fun read to break Superman,
Yeah.
but you can't break Superman in his real book. Like you have to put him back at the end of the day. That's
Yeah.
what a real book is for. And in an Archie book, that wherever you go, you got to put all the characters back to where kind of sort of where you found them. That's really hard to find to concoct that from scratch. And I've got to say, this book, and I would start with, it's the Mark Wade Archie. It's the Mark Wade Fiona Staples Archie, 2015. There's about 17 issues out right now.
Number 20 comes out today, I think.
Oh, 20 even. Oh god, it's amazing. And if you're going to start with Archie, this is the place to start.
Yeah.
She couldn't stay with the book, so there have been a series of artists since Fiona went back to doing Saga full time.
Veronica Fish, Eddie
Veronica
Wu.
Fish, Eddie Wu. They've gotten really rad collaborators, but the new, and this was one of the big challenges, was like Archie has an instantly recognizable style, and departing from it is very treacherous. And this, so that was like these redesigns, courtesy of Fiona Staples, were one of the first things that you could look at and not sort of be like, that's not Archie.
You were like, wow, it was amazing because it wasn't Archie, but it was. It captured everything that Archie needed to be. It was modern. It was interesting. It's modern without being cynical. These stories are more mature without being adult. It's everything that you want. I mean, like, look at that.
There we go.
Look at
That's
that
it.
art. That's one of the new artists, and they capture the characters really, really well. They've allowed Riverdale is a city that's caught in the past but is self-aware about it. One of my favorite, the Betty and Veronica book, which I love.
I haven't
I
started that
actually
one
have
yet.
to read that one still.
The Betty and Veronica book is amazing.
How is he handling the friendship?
Well, here's the interesting thing about
who's
what
writing it? Do you remember?
Superstar artist Adam Hughes is both writing and drawing.
Adam
Betty
Hughes
and
is writing and
Veronica.
directing, and drawing Betty and Veronica.
Speaking of schedule delays, it is on the about twice a year plan.
Oh yeah, it's slow.
Archie comes out regularly. Betty and Veronica does not.
It's and they're issue 3 is on hold. Like I'm waiting on issue 2. There's only 2 issues so far.
And also Archie has gone very heavily into variant covers, which I actually super hate as a retailer, but has resulted in a ton of great art. It just means it's going to be very confusing as you try to track down which issues you're looking at.
Comixology has been very helpful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good book for Comixology.
Literally dozens of alternate covers for some of these.
Oh yeah.
Trey Amos says, so the reboot is a good place to start, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything from the new Archieverse, from the Mark Waid Archieverse.
If Mark Waid writes it,
it's probably great.
It's probably great.
Yeah.
And
he's one of the
his
best.
love of these characters shines through. And the Betty and Veronica book, I'll say, is really fascinating. The relationship, they do a few things. Is that it's not about Archie, which is great. Mm-hmm. Archie has nothing to do with this story. The basic conceit of the conceit of the story is that the old mom and pop's soda shop is closing down and being replaced by a Starbucks.
Oh no!
Or by a chain, or I'm trying to remember because it's been a while since I read this. If it's Pops or if it's another, like one of their, I think it might be Pops.
Just saying that makes me
and
want to get a hamburger.
They decide that they're going to save it. The teenagers decide that they're going to run a fundraiser and save it, but Veronica is being weirdly sketchy about the whole thing. And then we find out that Veronica's family are the reason that the coffee shop chain is coming.
Sounds legit.
And that she's, and in very Veronica style, is not only not helping the kids save it, but are very much kind of sabotaging to help her dad. And with very little remorse. And we don't quite know where this is going, but this is the clash that Betty and Veronica have, is over the soda shop. And it legitimately turns violent, where these girls are angry at each other. There's a real visceral, they're both getting really, really, the fight is not cute. It's not a cute girl fight. It's a, why are you ruining my home? You've come here, it's very much getting to this.
You came from outside,
and we get the sense that it may end with a building catching on fire, full on something may burn. They're very, the rivalry. They've managed to up the stakes to this really intense place, and the boys are we don't know how to fix this because they're going to kill each other, and the boys have all backed off because Betty is, especially this modern take of Betty, which I really love.
Betty has slowly evolved into sort of from just girl next door whose family doesn't come from money to sort of the extracurricular activities one. The one who's on yearbook, the one who's got a cause, the one who's starting a petition for something. Some versions of her, they're leaning into actual perfectionism with her. No. Other versions, it's just sort of she's still got dirt on her jeans, but she's
she's more of an activist.
Her day, she's very activist. She's also, her day job in the new, there's a page from it. Yeah, is
Hot Dog narrating this?
Yes, Hot Dog narrates the entire book. It's amazing. What? Oh my God!
Hot Dog?
Hot Dog the dog narrates the book. And it's brilliant.
God, that's awesome.
Why is Betty wearing those heels?
That they get into a little bit. They're at an event. They're trying to be fancy. I
can't praise every reinterpretation ever, and then I'm going to be skeptical about this one.
Her day job is she's an auto mechanic. She works in an auto shop, and her kind of, and she briefly talks about it. She's I think when I graduate, I'm probably going into the Air Force unless something weird happens. That's
Betty says that?
Yeah, that's kind of Betty's thing. Is military is very likely.
So she's going to join the military with Kevin.
Yeah.
And it's again an interesting thing in the Archie comics is there are actually a lot of class issues built in.
Oh, very much so.
Betty is really hoping to get some scholarships because Betty needs to go to college.
Yeah.
Veronica doesn't have to worry about
Betty's going to the military because those scholarships are probably not coming. She's being very safe.
Yeah.
Of I'm trying to go to college,
reasonable, be practical.
Very practical.
Yeah.
And her relationship with Archie is also very complicated in these new books in a way I like. The lipstick incident is a great
There's a big mystery in the early Mark Waid comics.
Yeah. So, and it's so like...
And all the kids at school talk about no one knows what the lipstick incident, but that's why Archie and Betty aren't dating.
And I love the reveal of what it was.
It was brilliant.
It was
brilliant. It was such a good...
Maybe a little too realistic and heartbreaking from Archie comics, but...
It's these kids are written so smart.
Yeah.
These kids are written really, and like even Veronica for all her bitchiness and entitlement and...
I'm curious to see where these go because like they're treating the characters with a realism in development that is not typical of sort of like not that the other comics failed to, but that the other comics weren't trying to do.
Yeah.
So what'll be interesting is like, can we do 10 years like this without encountering the same? Either we take all of this seriously and you guys are borderline traumatized by everything you've been through, or like. We don't take any of it seriously, and we slowly revert to the old style. I'm curious where it's going.
I am.
But it's a fantastic
I'm glad
journey.
they're taking it slow. I love that. I get what Veronica sees in Archie, and I get why Veronica's broken and why Betty is very. Of course, you're going to date other people, but oh God, why her? Oh.
There's a smart choice in the new comics where Veronica's new in town. Usually, you kind of get the sense that they all grew up together. For some reason,
it works
like,
much better.
But like Veronica as new kid in town is a great way to sort of enter the story.
And that's what they've done with Riverdale as well. That works really well. Is she kind of becomes a window character, and then you have to kind of take her around. You learn to love all these other characters.
I'm a bit behind in the single issues, but I know that they've just introduced Cheryl Blossom, which I'm really excited about. Who's, of course, there's a blonde and a brunette. There's got to be a redhead, and Cheryl's kind of. Like in the original
Veronica's
books,
Veronica is sort of the basic Cheryl premise.
She's really she refers to them as townies in the old books quite a bit.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, those townies are ruining everything.
She does it in this one too.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, we really going to a party with the townies?
She's really got problems, that girl.
Yeah.
And she and her brother both are kind of a big mess.
Wait till you watch Riverdale.
I want to throw this out there. So you learn, like, the very first thing you learn in Riverdale, so this isn't a spoiler if you haven't seen it, is that Jason Blossom is murdered, and that's the Twin Peaks thing. Okay.
Is that they killed her brother Jason.
Doing the stuff that I do at Screen Junkies, every once in a while someone will come in to do like an interview or something like that. The actor who plays Jason Blossom was in last week. And I was like, I like Riverdale. It's kind of fun to meet this guy. So he's in our office talking, and he sees my wallet, which has Doctor Strange on it. I think it's classic Gene Colan, Marvel Premiere #7. That's what's on my wallet. And where he flies off to meet Cthulhu, the planet with the Venus flytrap. That's the one. So he sees my wallet, and he's like, oh, dude, whose Doctor Strange wallet is that? And I was like, oh, it's mine. And I was wearing a shirt that had 9 Marvel characters on it, but just their helmets. He's like, of course it's yours. Like, of course, like you're the Marvel, wearing the Marvel shirt, and then one of the other producers there was like, well, Matt's kind of like our go-to Marvel resident expert kind of guy, and we talked about that. And he goes, I bet I can name all the characters on your shirt, and I was like, well, I mean, go for it. So he's like,
you try
Cyclops, Wolverine, and he names them all, and like they're not obscure. It's like Wolverine and Magneto, Cyclops, and I was like, all right, what's their real names? And he goes, oh, I've got this, Thor Odinson. And he starts going through them, Scott Summers, and he gets down to Wolverine. He's like, it's not Logan. James Howlett? And I was like, oh, yeah! Yes! And then he got to Magneto, and it was like, I know it's Eric L.
Lincoln Logger.
And I was like, it's Lyncher. And he goes, oh, I almost got him all. I'm like, dude, that counts. That counts.
Super counts.
Turns out the dude who plays Jason Blossom, outside of having, by the way, in real life, incredible biceps. Like every once in a while, as he was pointing at me, I would see his bicep flex, and I'm like, that's not right. Like
there are things happening in there that just like
I will never have that. I want But on top of that, he would be like, Eric.
No, it's
Eric L. Eric L. I was like, it's good to know Jason Blossom's like a full-on legit Marvel
nerd.
Fanatic.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
If that inspires you to go watch the show even more.
There's a Riverdale comic based off of the television series,
is there really?
which I haven't read
Excited.
yet. There's a Riverdale. But the Archie versus Betty and Veronica, it has Archie, it has Jughead, which we're about to talk about.
And these are all in sort of a new version of the main continuity. So again, zombies aren't going on in this, and it looks different from the Archie comics you remember, but it is essentially the main Archie universe right now.
Yeah, it's the new, like, and if you ask anybody for the new Archie universe, it's Betty and Veronica, Jughead, Archie, and I think
There's Josie and the Pussycats.
Josie and the
Bennett's been
Pussycats,
writing.
which I'm behind
and
on.
I think there have been a couple of one-shots as well. Like, they just did Reggie and Me. Reggie and Me is happening.
Reggie and Me.
Much like the original comics, it started with just one central title and is ballooning out to other things. Sort of, as long as people are interested in picking them up, they'll keep doing them.
Solo Man Kane, sorry, I have to throw this out.
Yeah.
Solo Man Kane 76 says Jughead is gastrosexual.
That's funny.
Interesting. Jughead got his own book. It was written, this initial run, at least, by Chip Zdarsky with art by Erica Henderson. I think he's now been followed by Ryan North, which is like an A+ reason I need to catch up on Jughead.
It's good stuff.
And in issue 4 of the Jughead comics, they took another interesting step, which was that sort of perfectly, like I didn't even think about this, but Kevin Keller first admitted his sexuality in a casual conversation with Jughead. Jughead just admitted his sexuality in a casual conversation with Kevin Keller. And his sexuality is asexual. In this version of Jughead, in the comics right now, or at least as of issue 4, I haven't caught up. Jughead basically says like, "Oh, well, I'm not into that stuff," or Kevin says it about him or something like.
And he's very much like, I'm not into the relationship and kissing stuff. Looks like a terrible distraction, and I have no interest in this stuff.
Yeah, you're like, you guys are all hormone crazy. I'm glad I don't have that.
Which makes a lot of sense for this version of Jughead. Very, very much so.
And
they did a big Moose apparently. Also, Moose got a
yes.
Big Moose, who's the jock.
Oh, wait till you
God.
watch Riverdale.
Oh no.
I'm curious now. Let's talk about some performative masculinity and Big Moose.
I love the way Zdarsky writes Moose. He just says his name.
Like Homer.
Moose! Moose!
But
I'm Moose!
So they've put Jughead. The Jughead in the book is really in this wonderful, and I know that they didn't do it like this in the Riverdale show because, well, honestly,
This has been a point of contention is that the Riverdale show is not taking the same thing, but they were probably being developed totally separately by different people, and I'm not sure, like...
I'm very okay with this Riverdale kind of ignoring my Archie books. I don't want them to pay attention to the Archie books are doing wonderfully in their own little universe.
Let the two mediums do their own thing.
I agree with that, but I also feel hypocritical because I'm happy about Kevin Keller in Riverdale precisely because it means that the thing that could have been blip has a better chance at being permanent canon. So if somebody else felt that way about Jughead, then they are going to feel like it was a missed opportunity.
It was a missed opportunity, but it's one of those interesting things where from a television development perspective, I totally understand why they did it the way they did, which is that on a functional level of like purely the math, a show like Riverdale exists only because it will only exist and be published for as long as they can think of new ways of having everybody have sex with each other, which is literally what the story is. So like basically on a certain level, everybody is story-wise, everybody has a sexuality, or they are functionally bisexual because if they're gay, they're eventually going to shag someone who's straight. They're
If Kevin
straight,
Keller shags
they're going
a
to
woman,
shag
I'm
somebody.
quitting.
They're going to shag somebody who's
quitting
gay.
life.
And if they made an asexual Jughead, he would eventually shag somebody anyway, because it's the only way these shows function is everybody has to shag everybody. That's basically, it's kind of a mill, and this is sort of, it's a little bit of a puppy mill.
Their story engine is people dating and falling in love with other people, and that engine
Not even, it's
eventually
people, it's
consume
people,
in
it's
front
all
of
the
it.
different ways that you like, it's people falling in love, it's people falling in lust, and it's people hate
Acting
hate
upon those
shagging.
things, yeah.
It is hate shagging, love shagging, and like shagging. And then it's a soap opera, and this is sort of, by its very nature, it has to be uncomplicated. And like even the very notion of a character being gay in a certain level is eventually just going to turn into a reason for them to betray that, because that's how these shows function.
Yeah.
The comic doesn't have to do that, and that's what I like about the comic. And they could have made that show, and that's a different show, because you could make an Archie where no one's shagging, and I'm very okay with that. The non-shag shows are actually really, I'm not a big fan of shag shows. It's one of my problems with the DC shows is they're very much shag shows where everybody is going to eventually date everybody else.
Yeah, they're soap operas.
It's turned down a notch, but like
Turn down a notch.
for as much flash as I get, I also have to have 10 minutes of everybody complaining about who everybody else is having sex with.
Or at least making out with.
Yeah.
It's the CW, sometimes it's unclear.
Yeah, it's I can't believe they're with him. They should be with me. And now back to superheroes.
Yeah.
Whereas Yeah.
Used properly, those elements are very
Oh,
compelling.
they are. They're very. There's a reason we make them. They're very compelling, and it's fun. But definitely, I'm fascinated to see how Archie works in that as a backdrop to that.
And I will shout out that, like, having watched the pilot for this,
I've not seen it.
It definitely fascinated and intrigued me. It had great moments that felt like a commentary on the Archie stuff that I love. Again, the visceral thrill of hearing someone say Dilton Doily's name out loud.
I can't even imagine.
Is just great. It also has some stuff that, like, built into their premise is some stuff that, like, I mean, just... It's awkward to watch. There is a storyline where Archie, spoilers for Riverdale, but I think this is in most of the promos, Archie has had an affair with a teacher who's a nice old lady in the comics and is a hot young Juilliard grad in the show. And, like, I kind of want to ruin this for you, but I kind of want to not ruin this for you.
Go ahead. I can't be ruined.
Okay, when we get the first flashback to that, he's literally walking home because he's been working construction this summer and he's getting all buff, which is oddly faithful to the comics,
oddly
like
faithful,
working for his dad. He's walking home. She drives by wearing the Lolita glasses.
Oh, for the love of...
That's literally the way that you see the first, like, she's like, do you need a ride? Like...
Are you trying to seduce me? Yeah, very much. Mrs. Robinson, are you trying to seduce me?
And what's interesting is, like, for a viewer, tiny mini review for Riverdale... Feeling weird about that got in the way of my enjoyment of the show because it caused me to read scenes differently than the way they should be read. Like, then when Archie's having a conversation with his dad where he's like, I'm just dealing with a lot right now, I, as a viewer, am sitting there going, you darn right you are, you're 15. You should be talking to a professional. And that's not what I'm supposed to be thinking in that moment. I'm supposed to be thinking about, like, his actual character dilemma of whether to do football or play music. Like, so I think that as I continue with the show, I can probably just accept that this is built into the premise, and I will probably get used to it.
The best way, and this is something like this is just sort of a way.
Because there's a great plot reason that it needs to happen that's related to the Twin Peaks.
And this is something that I also a lot of people don't pick up on anymore. This is a way that we used to deconstruct television for those of us who were working on it back in the days. Is a lot of this is sort of this.
Are you also a vampire pretending to not know things?
I'm not pretending.
Mr. Raised on
He's not pretending.
I'm not pretending. Malkavian for life. But for afterlife.
Not Toreador?
You know, I had a Tremere for a while, but Malkavian is really where my talents lie.
Okay.
I make it work though. I feel the Tremere.
No,
I feel the Toreador.
Yeah.
No, I feel the Toreador. I have some nice suits. But
anyway.
But it's a whole nother episode. But a lot of these types of shows are very kabuki, and if you treat it like what if the Archie cast were aliens, and then you understand that there are no humans in the show. Mm-hmm. This is the what if the Archie cast were over sexualized, and so they've sort of put on these kabuki costumes, and this is sort of how these characters are being cast. So it is a shame that we're not getting Jughead.
And, like, he obviously doesn't look like a 15-year-old. We're not really supposed to think of him as a 15-year-old.
We're just supposed to be impressed and tantalized by the inappropriateness of it. Is very much its veneer, and the veneer of scandal is necessary for the way that this particular story is being told.
And you'll see that, like, there are plot things that are served by that.
Yeah, they have to be.
They're a mystery show.
And at the end of the day, those are costumes that Archie takes off and then goes and Archie gets to be itself in the comic book. And the comic book is where Archie, it's Archie without dressing, without whatever this
and I will say, like,
is.
In the show, like, the teacher Archie subplot eventually gets resolved and kind of shelved.
Fantastic.
They'll find a new way to, but like the whole notion is
it got shelved here and there.
It got shelved because they're going to find something even more scandalous to do in a little while.
Sure.
Very much like Twin Peaks.
Yes. I'm just saying, like, that particular thing, like the back and forth, will they, won't they? That whole thing, like, it lasts for like 5 episodes and then it's kind of done.
These kind of shows definitely have a pitch and meter, and I can't really I can only fault them for not doing what we would like to see so much. There are things that they can do that they always should, and looking at genre, looking at the mechanisms of genre and being like, here's a thing that I get why you can't break, but here's 7 other things that you can, is always fascinating.
Yeah.
And just understanding how that Tumblr system works, where like, okay, well here are all the things that you can
not
use
Tumblr,
shift and play.
which is
not
also
Tumblr
dedicated
the show, but
to
like
breaking things.
the Rotunda,
the live chat is
Tumblr.
loving your quote of "I can't be ruined." Like they're re-quote, like they're re. Requoting you a lot. I can't be ruined. I'm Taliesin Jaffe.
I also.
So how has it been encountering Riverdale without this crazy, for some reason, lifelong attachment to these characters?
Actually, yes.
You mean the series?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like,
Does
I mean,
it
it's
for
just
you,
like,
even though it's
like
some-
going back and reading the comics,
Yeah.
having started the show, like, because the only thing I had about Archie before the show was this.
So you're not feeling that sense of like tantalizing defiledness that I'm expecting. I'm expecting to feel like a weirdly like my childhood is being like just prodded at in a weird way that will make me both uncomfortable and kind of excited.
You will will absolutely feel that way.
Yeah.
You will
and
absolutely
also
feel that way, especially with the whole like Archie music teacher subplot. Like
That's weird in my head, but I'm ready.
You know, and it's a CW soap opera.
It's a CW.
like you
it
said,
is
it's a
form.
shag show.
Yeah,
It's
it's
an
a
absolute shag show.
Based on their pilot episode, like they have contributed one of the great Veronica reinterpretations.
I can. She was built for this kind of story. Like,
yes.
Veronica was built for this, and I assume Cheryl was also built for this.
Cheryl's a psycho.
Cheryl is
so excited.
an
I've
effing
only one episode
psycho.
in, but
she's an effing psycho.
I can't wait.
And I actually really like Jughead in the show. Like, I like Jughead a lot more than I thought I would. He's one of the kids from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Well, it's
and
Cole Sprouse?
Cole Sprouse.
I think even beyond anything, there's maybe no way to like. Jughead is one of those characters that if you even get the slightest understanding of who the character is, he's always the most interesting kid in school.
And I will say that they play very well in this show with class issues because there's very much.
I was wondering because those haven't really shown up in the first episode because everyone has fancy everything.
But they get like really unpacked.
Nice.
At least by my interpretation, they get tremendously unpacked as the show goes on. You find out what the Lodge family's kind of up to. There's some shady shit going on there. You find out Jughead's sort of like family history, which is...
Are they using the same story that they're doing in the comics now, which I didn't know was a thing?
I don't actually... Like, you mean in the Mark Waid run? Or
Yes.
the Zdarsky run?
The Mark Waid Jughead where
What's
like
the story that's in the Mark Waid
it's
run?
complicated. You want to delve into
Well,
it? Like it's a little complicated.
I'm not super caught up, but like the part that... And this was interesting because I was genuinely wondering if this was new or if I had missed it in canon somewhere. But I think it's the Mark Waid comics that gave him a backstory that like his family had money.
Yes.
Right. It was gone.
No, they're not doing that. They're not doing that.
He
was never wealthy.
Like,
he was never wealthy in the show.
He was an overweight he was
spoiled little rich
spoiled,
kid
but
who
like
grew out of it much earlier because he was forced out of it much earlier.
yeah, and
which is why he and Veronica
not even
kind of
necessarily
actually get along in some way.
Well, and like not even necessarily spoiled, but like well, and Veronica also there's a sweetness to the center of Veronica in Mark Waid's books that I really like, where she's genuinely lonely on a very visceral level.
Yeah,
and is suddenly realizing that even when she's having troubles, that these are real people who are connecting with her, and it's fascinating.
And like her money, which has been like such a great benefit to her this entire life, has also completely separated her from like
and
that's
humanity. less than spoiled, but Jughead was very lonely because of his money and the way that he was raised, and he was not an attractive kid, and he had all this he had a lot of problems and kind of he actually like his origin is very similar to mine. He had that kind of nervous breakdown moment of like, I don't need to buy this shit anymore. I'm just going to be me and see, and the chips will fall where the fuck they may. And he's such a wonderfully, I mean, like
this
beyond
is the
Riverdale,
Mark Waid
the Mark
version,
Waid
right?
Jughead is such a great. He's the one I identify with the most in these books, and he's such a gleaming and well put together individual, and if you're looking for an asexual character in comics other than that is not cartoony, because that's normally how they show up for reasons that are their own show. It is a great modern, a very adult, well-crafted asexual character that you can get behind, and very with great class and poise.
Now, is that being written consistently between the main Archie book and the Jughead side book?
Yeah, it's got a little bit of variance. It's got that standard writer variance that's unavoidable. But the Jughead and the one thing that people might get weird with is that Jughead does get a crush in his book, where he briefly is like doing this. I think I have romantic feelings. This is kind of weird. I don't necessarily like it. I don't like this. Like he's like very like he becomes almost like a little terrified at the fact that he finds himself like maybe sexually aroused to a hamburger with female legs. it's funny and it works. And like the rest of the characters definitely do the like, oh no, do this. They're like, they get very shovey and they like, you want to, sexy relationship fun. Try it out. And he's like, guys, no. And they definitely do like, although they're teenagers, of course they are. And like, that's the thing is you can't get mad at them. They're being their own idiot selves. And that's
an interesting thing about exploring stuff like that is that you're fundamentally telling stories about teenagers, which means you're going to run into this idea that they shouldn't know everything about themselves yet.
Yeah.
But a problem that has plagued depictions of identities, like, you could easily have fallen into the trap of making Kevin Keller not sure he was gay. You could say it's because he's a teenager, but they decided sort of like, nah, he knows who he is, he's fine with who he is. That's a better choice for us and the stories we're telling.
And it's not a trap to make everybody else go. And this is the thing about these sorts of... It's not a trap to make everybody else go, are you sure you're gay?
Yeah.
Because you have to ask that question so he can go, yeah.
100%.
I'm sure. Thank you for asking. Really got it taken care of.
Yeah.
You ask those questions so that you have a safe place to answer them, which is yes. It's a safe place to ask these questions and be like, I don't understand how this works. Well, let us explain it to you. And bless that the hamburger incident resolves in the best way possible.
Nice.
With the sexy hamburger. Oh, the sexy hamburger. I'm not going to
catch up.
spoil anything. It's amazing.
So going on the Mark Waid comics, I just want to say, like, one of my favorite things about what Mark Waid has done with the comic is there's always a splash page at the very beginning.
Yeah.
That's a full page panel, as you might remember from previous
and
discussions.
that one splash page kind of serves as a 100% metaphor for Archie's story throughout that entire comic.
Yeah,
like,
they
then
really...
they kind of divide it into like three or four chapters maybe, but like that one, like,
you know what you're in for.
Like, as I started reading, I started catching on to what was going on, and like that became one of my favorite parts of the book. Was this is telling me exactly what to expect, like, emotionally. From, like, I don't know the actual details, I don't know the actual narrative, but emotionally and metaphorically, this is what
where we're going.
This is what this book is dealing with in this particular issue. And I was like, that's brilliant. Like,
man, you love these kids. You fucking love these kids.
No, that was the thing. Like, I was like, all right, Taliesin wants to do Archie, whatever, I'm gonna go read it. And like,
everything I wanted.
I started reading through it, and like I started reading on Monday night once I 100% knew what we were doing. I'm reading through like some comics on Comixology, and I got like through the entire first trade, and I was like, but I'm tired and I have to go to sleep, but what happens?
Oh,
but what happened? Like,
yes.
I got so sucked into the story, and then I started, like, I picked it back up again last night, which is just like, God, I hate you so much, Taliesin. Oh, I hate you so much. Because, like, I started getting, like, I never thought I would be like, well, is he gonna stay with Veronica? Like, they need each other. Like,
but it's so unhealthy. They can't stay together.
But I'm like,
they can't.
But now, like, she's kind of like trying to, like, she's not like slumming it. She's like, I've been in this ivory tower, and now Archie has shown me that there's a whole wonderful, beautiful green
but they're so
world
bad
down
together.
here.
They're so bad together.
And
They
everyone
can't,
else sees it, and Betty's like, but I still love you. And he's like, but I still love. And I was like, I hate you, Taliesin, so much for pulling at my heartstrings.
It's so good.
That's amazing.
It's so
I'm
good.
so happy right now.
And then and then I went over to Sabrina thinking like, I'm gonna get the same thing, but it'll be with magic.
Fuck
what is
no.
this?
Fuck no.
Fuck you, Taliesin!
Tell me you don't want to see Sabrina meet Doctor Strange.
Oh, so bad.
Oh my god.
Oh, so bad.
Oh
I
my
want
god.
Doctor Strange to appear and be like, so this is an interesting multiverse. Who's the Sorcerer Supreme of this one?
Have you
You'll
met,
do.
Have you met
Sabrina,
my cat Salem?
Sorcerer Supreme.
Have you met Salem?
Sabrina, Sorceress Supreme. I hate you.
All right,
that's
so
good.
there's a question.
Yeah, please. It's question time as we're running out of time.
Yeah, we're running out of time, but one of them.
Oh my god.
So Frankenstein 1912. What situation would you like Archie Crude to get put into?
Doctor
I
Strange.
want to see Sabrina, Sorcerer Supreme.
all
Sabrina
on board
Source.
with this now, yeah.
I would love to see the things I love. I love the other teenage heroes of. I would love to see Teen Titans or Young Avengers meet
Archie.
Meet Archie.
Yeah.
Gidget meet Archie. I would love a Gidget Archie crossover. By the way, guys, read the Gidget books. They're old. They've got problems. I would love like. In my heart of hearts, there's several writers I would love to see take Gidget and like modernize Gidget. She's a great character. What other like great teenage heroes would go really well with like a
I mean, there hasn't been a Buffy Archie. They're kind
Pippi
of in that
Longstocking
territory,
is another
but-
one of my like Buffy Archie would be a great crossover because Riverdale and Greendale because Sabrina lives in Greendale.
Yep. one town over.
Yeah, Greendale is one town over, and things get weird in Greendale. I wonder if that was intentional, because
I always assumed Sunnydale was named after Sunnyvale, but
yeah, Sunnydale, Greendale, and yeah, there's some interesting.
Because there's some interesting like parallels between the two.
Veronica Mars would be another good crossover. I've got a bunch of them I'd love to see. I love, and like, or even like, is it time for an Encyclopedia Brown reboot? Come on,
Yes.
guys.
Oh my
100%.
god. Oh my god. Yeah, like a detective like Archie, like Hardy Boys Archie kind of thing.
Well, there's who's the famous? There's a famous detective named Archie. It's Archie. From
Thank you, Chief Doom.
Maybe who's the character from the Archie Goodwin. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
There's Archie Goodwin.
Yeah.
Who's,
publisher?
No, Archie Goodwin is a detective who works for Nero Wolfe, who's a famous book detective.
Okay.
He's a shut-in detective, and Archie is his guy who goes out and is like the handsome, like noir detective, but he's actually just the assistant for the kind of fat, angry, shut-in Nero
So
Wolfe.
let me throw this question out.
There's a Star Trek Archie crossover too. That's really good.
I'm gonna wink at the audience right now because I'm not spoiling the book I mentioned, but anyone who's already read it is very excited by some various parts of the conversation we just had. That's it. I'm leaving it there.
Captain, I think maybe Crazy. C-R.
Go for it.
I always assumed it was Chrissy, but
Chrissy. Maybe it's Captain
Captain
Chrissy.
Chrissy.
Captain Chrissy. Or Crazy.
we've
You could
actually
be
asked
both.
you this before, and I have forgotten your answer, Captain.
know.
I'm very
Bad.
sorry.
So which Archie character are you most like?
Jughead, probably.
You Jughead, yeah?
I mean, I feel like I'm a Jughead. I'm somewhere between, like, I'm like if Jughead and Cheryl Blossom had a child, I think would be.
You
like
are
my-
so not Cheryl Blossom.
No, but like I definitely
Stop.
like her better
Stop.
qualities.
No,
like
there are no better qualities.
I can be a bad person. I can be a very bad person.
I-
I'm the best bad person. I've been described as the best bad person.
I've never seen you as a bad person.
Well, I'm a bad idea.
You have a wicked streak.
I do, and I can be a very. I'm an
never seen you act
I'm,
like
I'm
that.
the
I've never seen you as
instigator
bad.
of bad ideas.
I
I'm
see you
often
as mischievous.
mischievous, but like there really isn't a mischievous. So yeah, but like Jughead, I feel like Jughead is maybe the
Okay.
best direction for. Although again, I'm open to anybody's theory here. So
Yeah. Who would you say you are?
So it's a funny story. Like, I got real hung up on hair color, or I probably would have identified as Betty from the start.
yeah,
Like, she's the one who wasn't into clothes and generally valued more substantial
probably the
things.
comic book reader of the group too.
And what, like, I would have loved, I think they might go that direction nowadays. They didn't, like,
Not back
that
then.
wasn't part of the thing. So, like, that's part of, I think, why I bonded to Dilton. I was like, the nerd!
Oh yeah,
And then they added Chuck Clayton, who's like an aspiring artist. He's their comic book fan.
that's right. That's
doesn't
right.
Get to show up enough.
Oh.
This is the darker side of the coin here is that, like, once you establish a core cast of white straight kids, it is very difficult to add to that pantheon in a way that is lasting and means
That's actually that's my one big criticism of Archie. Although it is true, it's really they've had I will say the new
a lot
books.
of attempts.
The new book has been good about trying to fight that as much as possible.
It's one of those reasons I'm so happy with Kevin Keller because I can't believe he's stuck. Like, because they've made a lot of attempts to diversify the cast, and they have not always.
It's
lasted.
tough.
Poor Chuck is like the survivor. Yeah. So it was that, like, other than like, I like as brunette kids. I know this is weird. This is pink. It doesn't look pink.
We've
but,
had
like,
that talk. I gotta say.
Yeah, I was always hung up on the hair color thing. I always
Yeah.
found the brunettes and stuff. But I obviously couldn't relate to Veronica, like, on any level. Like, I can appreciate her,
Yeah.
but, like, we have nothing in common.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's the Betty / Dilton.
Yeah.
I have no
Maybe
idea
I've
who
got
I
a bit
am.
of Sabrina going on too. Maybe I don't know.
Like,
Yes,
Okay,
you are
maybe
the
I'm
Jughead Sabrina future.
I'm the Jughead Sabrina future.
Yeah. You are your own friend
You
with
know
magical
magic
benefits.
exists. You can't help it.
No, it's
like,
true.
You spend most of your time acting normal, but you are living a whole other
I've
life
definitely
at
got
the
some
same time.
Sabrina going on. That's very fair.
I
Okay.
don't know who I am. Like,
You've got a lot of Archie.
Do I have Archie?
I will say that
Very
you,
lovable.
You also
Oh, thank you.
Do you
write
run into
yourself.
things a lot?
You write yourself as Archie.
What is
Like
that?
on Geek and Sundry, when you write yourself as a character on Geek
Oh,
and
yeah.
Sundry, you
Yeah.
write yourself as Archie.
All right.
I mean, you kind of have that like hi, but like
I'm
kind
willing
of,
to be yelled at for comedy. I think this will play well.
but
Yeah.
at the same time, always making you lovable. Like the like a
I'm
little
not
bit of
trying to-
love. You do lovable goofball.
Okay. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Like,
I
you
feel
do
like a lovable goofball.
You are a lovable
Yeah.
goofball, but somehow that actually like is like the crux of like a weirdly powerful popularity. Like,
Wait,
you are a popular kid, but you'll never, but like you'll
feel
never
like a
be able,
popular
but
kid
but
at
you
all.
don't, but neither does Archie.
No, I know, but like that's just
Neither
because
does
like, I know
Archie.
comics. Like,
Archie doesn't feel like a popular kid either, and that's kind of his
Tweet
charm.
at us and tell us who Mackie is.
Yeah, tweet us and tell us who Mackie is. I know we got to stop. Are there any other
Yeah, we
questions
gotta wrap
can
it up.
blow through? Or
there's a few here, but like we've got to wrap it up. So
Or I
wrap
guess,
it up.
oh man, Betty, Dilton, Josie. I've got a little.
you got a little Josie in you.
I think so.
I think we've
Yeah.
all got a little Josie in us.
I wish I'm not rock and roll. Sadly, I've got the misfits. Let's wrap
Thank
this
you for
up.
watching.
Thank you for watching our
thank you.
Riverdale session. This is the Matt Key. Where can they find you?
At the Matt Key. I also have a Marvel show that I do on Tuesdays at 2:30 on Popcorn Talk Network.
I'm Enthusi Amy. You know where to find me. Thank you for watching.
I'm Taliesin Jaffe. I'm executive goth everywhere that matters. You know where you can find me on Thursdays and Fridays and otherwise. And remember, if Archie teaches us anything, it's that there's nothing childish about being juvenile. Have a very, very good time.